Substation, but it's 6:30. We need to get the meeting started, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. It's 6:31 p.m. and I'll call the meeting to order now and call for quorum check, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Volle.
Discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Maxwell.
We'll discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Councilmember Volle.
Here.
A quorum is present. We shall proceed. The invocation this evening will begin by Councilmember Shelby. I'll lead us in the pledges afterwards, so would everyone please stand.
Tonight, let us leave our stressful lives outside as we consider the tasks at hand and focus on the challenges facing the city. Tonight, we will consider many issues during this meeting. The public trust requires that every issue be considered on its own merit, be analyzed thoroughly, and decided through rational problem solving, guided by ethics and integrity. May we focus on the tasks at hand, use reason to guide our decisions, and take joy in our work. And may we always increase the promise of opportunity and the hope those in our cities might have through the wise decisions being made on their behalf this evening. Let us welcome the challenges of the future we see before us and be undaunted by those yet to be known. May we be mindful of the unity we have in our single yet diverse human family with common values and shared needs. May we work together toward a cleaner environment, safer neighborhoods, stronger schools, and a viable economy. May we provide for well-trained and equipped firefighters, emergency responders, law enforcement, and our military, and may we never forget their sacrifices. As we forge ahead toward a common good for the city, may we all benefit from the enduring power that can only come from working together. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
What a delight to see a full council chambers. We could have this at every meeting. You can see the council trying to do the best it can to represent you as citizens of our great community. Okay, this evening. My microphone is on. Can't you hear me at all?
Try it again.
My mic is definitely on.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Again, welcome. Appreciate everybody coming this evening. Quite a few items on the agenda, and we welcome your participation. That's what it's all about. Glad to have you here. The first item we have to discuss this evening is two of our council members are absent this evening. Councilmember Goolsby is spring breaking with his kids, spring break time, and Councilmember Maxwell, his wife had a procedure today, and let's leave it at that. And things are going well, so he's with his wife, and that's exactly where he needs to be.
I move to excuse.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Pro Tem Neville and seconded by Councilmember Volle to excuse both of them. Any discussion? All right, call for the vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Very good. The next item is awards, proclamations, or introduction of guests. We don't have any in particular this evening, so we'll press on into our next item, which is our consent agenda. It's under tab number 8. There are actually 3 items there. As you can read in the audience, all matters are listed, considered to be routine by City Council and being acted by one motion. No separate discussion. If discussion is desired on a particular item, then we'll remove that from the consent agenda and we'll consider it separately. So that's what's before us this evening. The item A is consider the minutes of the Tuesday, March 1st meeting. B is to consider the Ordinance 640-P-2022. It's related to the Boulevard Development Company, the townhome suites that are going up on I-35. The only property we have in Universal City, which I'm not sure you really realize that. Item number C then is considered Resolution 934-2022. It's authorizing the project at 1732 Universal City Boulevard which will facilitate the promotion and development of new or expanded commercial development, and was approved by the Board of Directors of the Economic Development Corporation. And that is our second reading. The other one is also the second reading. So those are the items before us on consent this evening. Does anyone wish to have one of those items pulled and discussed?
Move for approval.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Shelby.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Najarian. Any further discussion, anybody? All right, Chris, please call the roll.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. So let's move on then to our citizens to be heard. There are quite a few that are signed this evening, actually 16 of you. It's a time provided for citizens to address council on issues or concerns. We totally welcome your input. I think all of you that have attended in the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 months, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we really welcome your input, and we have definitely taken some action based on, or that's not say action. We have moved the process farther on based on the comments we received from our citizens. So it's very, very important for you to address us. This is where we get the input that's really very helpful to all of us. Okay, the items this evening, I ask you to try to keep it at 3 minutes with 16 people involved and a full agenda this evening. I'm going to try to keep it at that. I'll remind you when you get to about 20 or 30 seconds out that your time is just about up. And I hope that you will stay to that. I'm not going to cut you off at the pass, but I certainly am going to respect, hopefully that you will respect the fact that you have many of your other citizens who want to speak this evening as well. Okay, so the first person that signed up this evening is Ms. Kim Eibelhart. Also, would you give us your name and your address for the record, please? Kim?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Kim Eibelhart. I live at 736 Garden Meadow Drive. When I became a police officer at San Antonio International Airport in 1984, a few of us rookies were concerned about our lax security program. It seemed as if our policy was guided by a belief that nothing ever happened and nothing ever will. Excuse me. 17 years later, on September 11, 2001, that abruptly changed. And while the rest of the country moved into the new millennium, Universal City stayed in Mayberry. And that was 21 years ago. When I volunteered to work at the library a few years back here in Universal City, I was shocked that I was not required to submit to a background check. After all, our children come and go from the library all the time. The new police chief recently confirmed that while PD volunteers are background checked, other volunteers are not. This is because, quote, all city events where children are present are to be so with parents or legal guardian, end quote. Seriously? Have we told our parents that Snowfest is an enter-at-your-own-risk event? Did we tell them to hold tightly to their children, even to their teenagers? Do we have a policy prohibiting unaccompanied minors at the library? Do we background check anyone? Vendors, participating nonprofits? Heck, even Meals on Wheels requires a background check to simply knock on a door and drop off a plate. Because, as they know, perverts and criminals do not just target children. The times have changed. There is a community expectation for entities who use volunteers to conduct appropriate background checks. We cannot continue to keep our heads buried in the sands of Mayberry, because I'm sorry to disappoint you, but Mayberry is make-believe. Now, a quick announcement. Universal City Council elections are May 7th. There will be a candidate forum at the library March 29th at 6:30 p.m. That's 2 weeks from tonight. Everyone is invited. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Very good, thank you, ma'am. Okay, the next individual signed up is Ashton Woolman.
Ashton Bowman, 12807 El Dorado. I had a meeting last week with Randy Loonsman's Public Works. We talked about the alleys and the trash. After our talk, it seems like just filling and graveling the alleys is not enough. The garbage trucks weigh too much, the roads weren't designed for them. I believe the only permanent solution is to pave the alleyways. However, I realize the cost in doing that would be very high and take many years to accomplish. However, I look at it as an investment though. Majority of the homes with alleys are older homes who will eventually start to turn over and new families will move in. So a paved alleyway would be a huge perk moving into an older neighborhood, as opposed to a non-used alley, which I believe once the alleys are no longer serve a purpose, they're going to get even more neglected and become an eyesore. My suggestion is to renegotiate with Waste Management, ask them to identify the worst alleys and start slowly paving the ones they identify first. Ask them to continue alley service and let them know that eventually, even if it's years from now, the alleys will be paved. I have talked to many department heads, citizens, and Waste Management, and this seems to be the only solution that would work. However, and of course, it's the most expensive. After talking to Randy, let me tell you, that man is passionate about the work that he does. I was very impressed with everything he said to me. I thought he's a great man for the job. I honestly believe he should get way more money than he gets so that we can fix the things that need to be fixed, because he has such a positive attitude towards this city. And his words to me were, if I had the money, I'd gladly do it for you. So I think that's just one thing we should all think about. My last thing to leave on is maybe a lesson to learn from this is that if we neglect areas of our town, instead of slowly maintaining them, it becomes a huge expense in the long run. So in my opinion, it's better to maintain in the very beginning than to neglect them. To turn a blind eye to the alleys now seems just like someone else just passing the buck and saying, well, we didn't do it in the past, they didn't worry about it then, why should we worry about it now? But I hope that that's not something that continues to be a sentiment in this city. We need to maintain now so that it's better for the future, so it's not a huge burden. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next individual, I think, comes right behind someone who just spoke, right? Mr. Nicholas Pullman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Bowman from 12807 El Dorado. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the concerns of the citizens. I would like to reinforce what my wife said before me. My main concern is the repair and maintenance of our alleys. Unfortunately, they have not been maintained in the past, which has led to where we are today. Our alleys are a great part of our town and offer a wonderful convenience to the citizens that have them. These are part of our original neighborhoods and should be treated with respect. My wife talked with the Public Works Director, and he voiced that he would love to pave the alleys and keep up maintenance. However, it seems like most things we are experiencing today, everything comes down to the funding. We have all seen the soaring costs of goods and services, and kicking this can further down the road will not make it any cheaper or give us an easy solution. Please put the repair and maintenance of the alley on the budget. If it is already on the budget, we need to look into a way to further increase that budget so we can push this project to the top of the list. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. The next individual this evening is Mr. Bill Fitzpatrick.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Bill Fitzpatrick, 206 Quail Drive here in Universal City. I'm here tonight representing the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. We have these swell green shirts. You can see several people out here have them. All our City Council members have taken that course, by the way. It is a course that lasts 12 weeks. It's like one night a week. It goes from like 6 to 8. We haven't had it in a couple of years because of, and we're going to get started hopefully here in the summer. That's where we get our members. What we do is we provide the community with education. I'm doing that tonight. And we also provide the police department with funds. We have in the past raised around $10,000, sometimes $12,000. That goes directly to the chief and the assistant chief for them to decide what they need. It's not in their budget. This year, we've already purchased a trail camera, like you'd have out on a trail looking for deer or hogs or whatever. But this camera is going to be used against our criminal element. And it can be placed a long way away from where something might be going on. And our officers can monitor that and not have to sit there in the car. We also bought some flags and banners for the chief to take out when he's doing recruiting. It's tough to get police these days. We're short of police, and we're short of police cars. And we're short 3 police cars. Anybody trying to order a new car right now? Yeah, good luck. Good luck. And ours got more gadgets and widgets than anybody's going to get. They're hard to get. Who knows when they're coming in? So what we're doing is we are selling these lovely yard signs. Same on the back and the front. We're selling those for $20 a piece. I'm going to leave my card up here. If you give me a call, I'll come put it in your yard for you. We'll do that. And any questions about the police academy or anything? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. obviously very noble. We support the blue, there's no question. I think all of us do. And they've gotten the bum raps for a long time. It's well overdue that they get the respect that they deserve, especially our policemen, for sure. Okay, next individual signed up is Miss Wendy Blackwell.
Wendy Blackwell, 1216 North Boulevard, Universal City. My concern is the garbage situation. I've lived here over 50 years, and we have always had pickup through the alley. We are now, in that area where I live, it's primarily senior citizens. We have a lot around us that are in their 80s and 90s. They cannot move those trash cans. There is no way. If you go down Meadowway, there's one house down at the end. I would like to see anybody take that trash can up and down that driveway. It doesn't work. And yet we're being told now that we have to do this. This contract was put out in August. You talked on it at that time. I went back to city records and checked it all out. You signed it, I believe it was the 18th of, 17th of August when you signed it. We were not told anything about this. Had we been told about this, we would have talked to you about it at that time, not now, this many months later. Where I live on North Boulevard, there's buses stop out there all the time to pick up kids. The kids play out there. We're on a hill. We can just see those trash cans and where they're gonna end up. There's no earthly reason that they cannot come down the alley and pick up. I've called and talked to Waste Management about this many times. I've been told so many different stories. I talked to the city manager about it one time, and it just keeps going on. The stories keep going. San Antonio had a choice of cans, what size they wanted. We have seniors, don't need a can that big. Why are we not offering 3 different size cans? More so, why are we not leaving the alley pickup where we live in up the top end there, Red Horse Manor? If we can get it in some areas, then we should be able to continue where we are. And I did note, reading through records, that 5 years ago, Waste Management came out here and wanted to stop trash pickup in the alleys at that time, and City Council turned them down. I'm kind of wondering why 5 years down the road now, all of a sudden, you're saying, fine, we'll go with it. Because there are trees hanging over in our area that will not let those cans get picked up by that side pickup on that can, the new truck. So, what's the story on that? I mean, you're saying we have to comply by all these rules and regs, but there are people that won't. They're not gonna pick those trash cans up. So that's my concern, and it's the concern of a lot of my neighbors. And I was asked to specifically say about the 3 different size cans from a person that normally comes but couldn't be here tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next individual that signed up is Mr. Richard Edwards.
I'm Richard Edwards, 209 Trudy Lane. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, you'll be revisiting the trash contract, and I believe you're scheduled for a closed council session with the city attorney. I presume that's to learn what can and can't be done, what is and isn't feasible. But how did we get here in the first place? What brought this all about? When this contract was first put on the agenda, I wondered, did everyone do proper due diligence? Did you put the time aside, and I know how much time I'm talking about, did you put the time aside to read it word for word, top to bottom? Did you understand all the terms and conditions? Did you consider the impact it was going to have on all of the city? Did you have prepared questions when you did the first hearing and carried it on to the second one? Learning that alley service was going to be pretty much discontinued, did anyone reach out to the affected neighborhoods to try to gauge and measure what the level of discontent was going to be? Did anyone try to overcome the challenge of why did we have to give up alleyway service? These one-size-fits-all containers, did anyone get with the city, I'm sure it's in a computer somewhere, to try to figure out how many elderly head of households we had that maybe due to balance issues or just not strong and robust enough cannot safely navigate these large containers? I would ask, we can do the best with what we have right now. But going forward, let's make that trash contract business a one-off and not par for the course. Please read all the agenda items thoroughly, know what they're about. I come up here regular, I listen to your questions. Sometimes they're poignant, most times they're not. And I just wonder, have you ever even read what's in the contract or whatever it is before you? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, next individual is Ms. Tara Rhodes.
Good evening. I'm Tara Rhodes from 1212 North Boulevard. I'm also addressing the trash can and alleyway. I would like to start with, I have owned a business for 20 years, and the communication between the city and the residents was my biggest concern initially. If I communicated something that would affect people on almost a daily basis in the same manner that I feel like this was communicated, it would really ruin my day when people weighed in on that. So I was upset when I found out that the contract was approved on August 17th when I didn't hear about it until maybe like a month ago. So that really felt like a disservice as a resident. So I'm enthusiastic about living in Universal City. I love the neighborhood, and we want to really have faith that we have a good relationship with our council members, and it really felt wrong. It felt like it was maybe that you guys thought there would be some pushback and maybe just slid it under the table. So when the gateway comes out and there's like full pages of what we're going to do with our new trash service, and we didn't even know it was coming, it seems like, this could have been put in the gateway in the exact same manner, and we would have all been aware of it, because it wasn't until neighbors were like, were you aware of that? Were you aware of that? And on a large scale, a large amount of people were not. So maybe explore some ways to further communicate. It seems like an aesthetic downgrade for more of a hassle out of all of your residents. And besides that we do, like somebody has mentioned, we do live in a neighborhood that has a lot of elderly, and I am concerned about the pulling up and down of those hilly streets. And I mean, I moved here 6 years ago, and it was a huge perk to me and a huge selling point to have that alleyway. So to have it taken away, and in a way where I didn't feel like I got to weigh in on it, really just did seem like a disservice. So I would ask that this is reconsidered, because not just for the economic, the leaves alone, I'm elbow deep in leaves every year, and that $1.80 a bag is a huge hassle, and we're in the middle of an economic crisis, and now we're going to be charged for one more thing. On top of that, it wasn't communicated, and that I feel like aesthetically is a huge downgrade in our neighborhood. I would just really hope that you guys reconsider that and maybe approach it in a different manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, nice to hear from you. Okay, the next individual, Mr. Stephen Buck.
Good evening, everybody. Stephen Buck, 8603 Phoenix Avenue in the great city of Universal City. Mr. Mayor, City Council, Madam City Manager, First of all, I applaud the City Council for revisiting the issue of the trash cans. There are a lot of citizens in the city that are concerned, and I think that have legitimate concerns. So thank you to the Council for revisiting it. I hope that the possibility exists for us to renegotiate the contract with Waste Management, and that everybody acts in good faith to try and address many of the concerns that have been expressed here tonight. Excuse me, to the citizens of Universal City, I wish to introduce myself to you. I'm Stephen Buck. I am running for City Council along with several other individuals that are in here this evening. I won't take up too much of everybody's time so we can get out of here tonight. I have a website that's out there that will introduce myself to everybody. It is buck4uc.com. That's BUCKFORUC.com. I also have an email address, stephen.buck@nonpartisan.com. To those folks that are out there watching on the video, thank you very much for taking the time to review the City Council meeting tonight. For everybody out there and for all the citizens of Universal City, I wish to be the best representative for you that I can. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions about my platforms or about who I am or my background or anything like that. Thank you very much to everybody. Council, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for your time. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, I still have a minute 40. Ashton, to what you said about Randy, that has absolutely been my experience with the vast majority of employees in Universal City, that they're all enthusiastic and they really do want to do what they can for the city. So thank you very much for pointing that out, and I agree Randy should get a pay raise.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buck. Next individual is Jan Mitchell. Mitchell? 205 Devaka. Okay, I'm sorry, the person didn't shoot. The 10th person to sign up this evening, I don't know, I hope nothing happened. Okay.
What's the name?
It says Jan Mitchell. That's the name that's on.
I thought it was just a sign for being here.
Isn't honesty wonderful? Okay. Did you want to say anything?
Since you're signed up.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, the next individual is Jeanette Valdez.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and the community. I am Jeanette. I'm with AT&T. I've been with the company for, I think, going on 16 years. I started in 2007. I started at the Forum when it was an itty-bitty little store. But I just transitioned into a new role, and I'm pretty much an appreciation ambassador for AT&T. And I've really enjoyed working for the company, and I've learned so much. And so in this role, what I do is doing a lot of appreciation events, but making sure that everyone has their discounts. And so that's what I found out in the prior role that I was in. It's called In-Home Solutions, and what we would do is someone up north, like, look, we're having our customers getting our internet service or TV service, and it was very confusing when we went through a merge with our DirecTV at that time. And so we have, if you ever see the AT&T Fusions out there, it's because we have managers being sent to your home to review your account, to make sure you have the applications available that is needed to access your services. And then we have streaming services, so having managers out there. And so with that, I just wanted you to know that in this role that I'm in now, there's a lot of change within AT&T, and I'm over all the corporate stores here in San Antonio, and then we just have a new manager that's starting with me over all the authorized retailers. So a lot of individual training, coaching, and so forth. We have discounts for everyone, and I'm really big on that, is discounts, and I definitely support the blue, all first responders and our community members, and so we have discounts now for, if you know anybody that's a teacher, first responder, police, nurse, you name it, there's a discount for everyone. We have 25% off now. 25% off for all of the teachers, veterans, first responders, military, police, fire. I do have some flyers back there too, so if you all know a first responder, AT&T provides a network. After 9/11, I know that was unfortunately mentioned this evening, but our first responders were not able to call out. And so with that, it was a government mandate to provide a priority and preemptive service, and that is called FirstNet. So if you've not heard of it, extremely important, check it out. I know Chief here, and they all have FirstNet. And so I'm very happy that they have that. It's priority and preemptive service. And there's a lot of events that are happening within the community, such as the pancake breakfast. AT&T was there, I was there, someone may recognize me, but we'll be there again in May. So providing FirstNet priority hotspots so that we can have different activities for the kids and whatnot. And so just wanted to come out and meet with everyone and know we are here for you. My contact card is in the back. I have some cards there. But if y'all are interested in AT&T or have questions about your services, just call me or text me and I will make an appointment for you. So it's walk in when you visit our stores and you're taken care of, because that's my priority. And so it's very nice meeting with you all. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you all. And I look forward to helping you guys and meeting you. Thank you.
I asked my students once if they knew what AT&T stood for. These are young freshmen and sophomores in college. They had no clue. Do you know that's American Telephone and Telegraph?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So that's the younger generations. They know acronyms. They don't know where the origination comes from. Okay, next individual, Mr. Wanaloki.
My name is Dewana Loki. I live at 109 Stage Drive. And first I'd like to again thank you, Mayor and board members, for being here tonight and taking time from your day and lives to serve our city. I really appreciate that. I'm speaking tonight as I have the last couple meetings to express my disappointment with the decision to discontinue alley trash pickup. I wasn't aware of the decision until a month or so ago and have found the same to be true for the majority of our residents with this service. And as I previously indicated, I'm very concerned about the effect this will have in the following areas. On our elderly and disabled residents, I have 9 elderly neighbors in just my immediate vicinity, 5 are widows, as they attempt to navigate large, heavy cans down steep driveways and only on designated days. I've heard of exceptions being granted for just a plastic bag of trash to be placed out front, but A, this will still be dangerous for elderly disabled navigating steep drives. B, you're going to get a lot of exception requests in our area. And C, I'm not looking forward to plastic bags out front that have been torn into by animals. On our home values, as alley service, coupled with the aesthetics of no cans out front, is and always has been part of the draw and charm of many of our homes in our neighborhood. On our alleys left behind that will probably become storage areas for some folks. And who will police that? Who will police cans left out for days? I don't believe we, all of us, mayor, city council, and residents of Universal City, pushed back to waste management enough to find a common ground that meets their needs and concerns and keeps this much needed and desired service. For example, I walked my alley today and it looks pretty good, but do others need trees trimmed or base laid? And are there rules we could abide by to satisfy waste management's concerns? Will the armed trucks fit in our alleys? I just heard somebody mention that they would not. I did some measurements in my alley and I'm not really familiar with the trucks, but we kind of guessed from looking at this picture. We do have the 4 feet on either side that they asked us to keep clear for pickup of the cans. We have 9 feet in the alley. And if they flat won't fit, why can't they just keep some rear end loaders on hand for us? My husband and I were out doing some yard work a few weeks ago and a brand new rear end loader truck went down our street. And my husband said, oh, that picks up recycle. So we know there's new rear end loading trucks that they could use, at least we think there are. As a business owner myself, I definitely understand integration, automation, etc., as we deal with price increases and labor shortages. However, as a paid customer of Waste Management myself, and a reminder, our city as a whole, we are all paying customers of Waste Management, I feel we can and should work together to make it a win-win for both sides, not just flat discontinue a much-needed service that we've had since our homes were built in the 60s. Finally, is there another trash company that could provide quality service, meet our alley pickup needs, and wouldn't increase our rates while reducing our services? I had heard there was going to be a rep from Waste Management here tonight. I don't know if there is, but I would look forward to gaining more information and understanding about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Next individual, Mr. Phil Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Phil Vaughn, 2801 University Boulevard. I'm here tonight to give you some feedback on tab D. So tab D is where you're issuing some bonds from the 2010 voter approved bonds. Not much of controversy there, but there are a couple of things in the funding plan that I wanted to bring to your attention that since your financial advisor's here tonight, I did catch him in the hall, so I gave him a heads up. But a couple of things that I thought would hope that you would ask of him. The first thing is, in that funding plan, there's a stipulation that you're going to use the sale of some parkland to pay off one of the bonds. I only assume that's the land between H-E-B and Walmart. I don't know anything about that, but I assume we're going to learn more about that in the future. But the sale from that parkland is used to pay off the 2015 bonds in total. And my understanding is that if you sell that parkland, it needs to be used for parklands. And that 2015 bond was a combination bond that had parklands, animal control facility, police and fire in it as well. So my thinking is that only a portion of that bond could be paid off with the proceeds and the rest would need to be set aside for parks. So I hope that you would ask the city or the financial advisor that question. You may not know the answer to that, but that would be something I'd want to look into. The second thing is, from the 2020 audit report that's on the city's website, the debt service fund had a fund balance of $2.3 million in it, which is a pretty considerable amount. It's more than a year's of debt service. And the funding plan that he's put in front of you doesn't take that into consideration. And so the only thing you can do with that money that's in your debt service fund is either reduce the property tax rate or pay off debt early. And so I would ask you to ask him what his recommendation would be to utilize those funds, rather than have them just sit there as they've kind of accumulated over the years and they're not really earning any interest. We have some opportunities. You have some bonds that can be paid early, particularly the 2008 and the 2013 bonds. The 2014 can be paid next year. So I'd be interested in what his feedback would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next individual this evening is Billy Castleman.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Billy Castleman. I live at 13514 Mount Olympus, and I'm here to discuss the waste management system. I did not know about this contract when y'all signed it back in August. Now, I don't know what the facility was that y'all let everybody know, but the reason that you have so many people coming forward now, shocked because they're just now reading about it in Gateway, is because the communicative system that you used to let us know something that was going to be so significantly impact our lives and our budgets was not given to us in the proper amount of time for us to be able to study it and give y'all our opinion so you could vote on it. Because that's the reason you vote, is based on what we tell you we would like. Now, what I need to know is why we are so impacted by a vendor who's making us cave into so many things. I had an answer to one of my emails to y'all, and it told me that the trucks had already been purchased. I don't understand why that's our issue. To me, that's the vendor's issue as far as the trucks being purchased. But second of all, like the young lady said a moment ago, there is no reason that that particular vendor has to use all side-loading trucks. There's no reason on the planet. Third, I'm wondering why, if you signed the contract in August, why are we bothering to revisit it at all? Does the contract stipulate that you can go back and not sign it? Does it say that there's addendums? Does it say that there's an issuance of some kind of timeline that once there's enough people who argue against it, then suddenly the contract is going to be revoked and a new one goes in? I'm just not understanding why this kind of contract is there. Now I'm here tonight, I'm very, very busy, but I'm here tonight because I've been told over and over that one of the reasons I don't get to have my opinion heard is because, well, not enough people show up at the city council meetings. But I'm here on behalf of all those who can't be here at the city council meetings. That doesn't mean that they don't have a voice, and it doesn't mean that they don't have an opinion, because those opinions and those voices are important every single time one of y'all is running for office. So you need to understand that their voice is important then, and their voice is important now. Lastly, I just want to make sure that anytime any contract like this that's going to impact the people in here, our senior citizens who don't have any kind of an entrance to to the front area. Some of them live yard to yard, and they're gonna have to go down 3 yards in their alley to drag a trash can out front. And despite the fact that I'm being told, well, the city's going to provide for people to come and help these people to put the cans out there. Frankly, after what y'all passed in August, without my knowledge, and apparently that of a lot of other people, I don't trust y'all to get these people's their trash out there to the curb. I don't mean to sound so ugly, but I think that this thing that's going to cost me so much money during the time the trash pickup for the leaves has to happen it's just something that y'all shouldn't be asking of me or of anybody who moves to this city. So I thank y'all for listening, and I hope to see what y'all can do out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, neighbor. I live right directly across the street from each other.
Hi, neighbor.
Next individual this evening is Linda Sefton.
Hi, my name is Linda Sefton. I live at 205 Drury Lane. I'm also the precinct chairman for precinct 4058. My precinct is from Cibolo Creek to Pat Booker, Aviation to Kitty Hawk. I can tell you most of the houses in my precinct have a back alley. My house was built in 1953. I believe it's the oldest house in the Rose Garden neighborhood. And it was absolutely built with a back alley. That's what it's intended. It was the draw for us to move into this neighborhood. We came over from the Alamo Heights, Terrell Hills area. We moved here as a retirement home. And having a back alley is a selling point because when you are older, it is a lot easier to take a little trash bag back in the bag than to take a trash can and wheel it down the driveway. As many have already expressed, many of the residents are elderly. I was told, and I want to first commend Kim Turner because she's been really good about whenever I call, she always calls me back and talks to me, and I really appreciate that. I know we're on different sides of this issue, but I really do appreciate that. And she left messages for me, and I've spoken to other people from that office. I was told that there was no other vendors that do the back alley where they will take the trash can by hand and throw it in the back. I was told that. I was also told that that trash can we're going to be using is like pushing a shopping cart. I just saw it out there. That's not true. You have to tip it. There's a lot of people who cannot tip that trash can because they're elderly and they have arthritis. Also, I spent the afternoon with my husband driving through other neighborhoods that already have this system. I went over to Converse behind Dante's off 76, all those little neighborhoods. It looks trashy. All the houses either have the true trash cans in front of the garage or to the side. And of course, even on a quiet day like today where there's no wind, there were trash cans in the street. There was some that left in between cars. It looks terrible. It's a downgrade. I don't think it's acceptable. I don't know why we want to do that. I'm also concerned about what will happen to the back alleys when you start doing that. Does that mean that we will suddenly be responsible for maintaining them, or what's going to happen with that? But I just want to echo what everybody else has said. I had no idea. I saw some little article in the newspaper about curbside. I assumed it only applied to people who already had curbside. It wasn't until like January someone told me, oh no, that means they're not going to pick it up in the alleyway. I about fell on my chair. I hadn't heard that from anybody. That was the first I knew how it was going to affect me. Another thing is, if you're going to put them on the side of our house, we either have to build a lean-to. At some point, I assume at some point, if they're not going to be visible, or people have to put the trash cans in the garage if they don't want to be visible. And that is just going to attract rodents and roaches to have that stink in your garage when it's 100 degrees in the summer. So I just don't see any other options except having it in the front or in the side, where people have to drag their trash cans from the backyard. And I just think that's unacceptable. But thank you for your time, and I sure hope we can renegotiate this and that we can get our alleyway pickup resumed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You've all been very articulate tonight. Congratulations. Last individual that's on this evening is Mr. Byrd. Volle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The answer to all of you is yes, yes, yes. Yes, there were car vendors that will provide continued alleyway service. Yes, council knew through email not a statement of work or an impact statement was done between the first and second reading for this. Yes, council was provided with...
Mr. Rulo, you need to address us, not the audience, please. Serious? This is time to address council, not the audience. You have to understand that.
Give me the time that you just took. Yes, the council got email from me that specified not only the names, but also the phone numbers of the waste management people that would continue alleyway service. So basically, between the first and second reading, okay? So basically, our city manager, I've never known her to lie to council in front of council meetings. She doesn't do that, okay? But that being said, she sometimes limits the presentation so that council does not have the options to review. So essentially, this is a sole source contract. No one else had the chance to bid on it.
What?
Oh, yeah. For $7.8 million. The last one was $7.5 million to Waste Management. So basically, members of council, you've heard this before, you've seen it in the email tracks, you've heard numerous residents talk about this. Okay, so basically, and with regard to notifying the residents, if you look back at the minutes, you'll see that this was an issue way back when. Okay, and yes, attempts were made through various medias, but how about just mailing the residents the information? They all get mail, okay? They don't understand sometimes the internet, they don't understand the other things that are associated with the distribution of information in these days, you know, type thing. So basically, we failed. We failed as a city for this waste management contract. We failed by not considering the alternatives, by not presenting it to council, okay? So you've heard it from me and others before. Everything that they've said is coming back to haunt this council because due diligence was not done for options that were realistic, and those particular companies that were mentioned are Republic and Tiger Waste Management. Both would provide continued alleyway service. In fact, I'm trying to get the phone record from Republic, who called between the first and the second reading, and they were actually told. Now, I'm going to withdraw that because when I get the phone record from from Republic, I think it will show that an attempt was made by Republic to enter the contract process, but they were told no, that was already a done deal. Okay, so if council for the city can request that, that would have more power than a citizen. Okay, so basically, you've had the data. You could have asked the hard questions back then. Okay, and I thank you for readdressing it. But there's got to be a way out of this mess. Now, we're going to contribute $500,000 to Super Doors.
Sir, you got 30 seconds.
Thank you. $500,000 to Super Doors. That's 10,000 patrol cars. Give or take a little bit. I just did the numbers in my head. 50,000. It's more expensive than that, okay? But basically, we've got to reassess the priorities. We're spending so much money in development and not enough money in infrastructure. The citizens will support the priorities of the city 100%. Okay, they have in the past, but they don't have the patience anymore for continued expenses in those priorities that are not the top. Okay, which include development and the golf course. Okay, so basically, thank you for your time. You've heard from these people numerous times, and I appreciate all that you can do for us.
Okay, there was a lot of you here this evening. Did anyone not get a chance to fill out this form that would like to address council? I'd be glad to let you. Yes, ma'am, please come on up. Give us your name and address for the record, ma'am.
My name is Michelle Yandell. I'm one of the homeowners at 101 Valerio Drive. I pulled myself together today, even though I have a migraine, to get up here. It was very hard, so I understand some people can't make it for some reason, but I didn't really have time to make this the way I wanted to, because I only had a couple days, because that's when I heard about it a couple days ago. So I want to start off by saying that if the trash collection for Universal City is going to increase, that is fine. However, I will not be forced to pay for a trash service if I decide that I have to discontinue either with the current situation of inflation or if I don't want the service for any other reason. Some people want to pay more for an iPhone, others want a cheaper phone that does the same thing, and everyone has their different opinions about that. And they're allowed to have them. And so this is no different when it comes to choosing how we have our trash disposed of and what service we want to use. Also, us as residents should have been asked about how we want our trash picked up and who we want our trash to be picked up by before any contract was signed. Since we don't know what companies offer and all the details about each trash service, we do not know what the bids were. If we don't want the trash picked up in the alley and in the street as well for residents on the same side of the street, so that fuel costs do not hit our pockets, or because the trash cans and traffic of picking them up is really going to be a concern, and there's another company that might just pick it up on one side and or the alley, then we need to know about that. It might have been a little bit more, but it may have been all right with us. So now we go back to what I said in the beginning, which is each resident should be able to purchase a service or not. And if anyone else decides that at any time they do not want the service, then they have a choice. This should not be a forced issue that we have to have certain garbage service. Some of us cut our own lawns and do our own work. Some of us hire people. That's our choice. Now, if you don't have garbage service, if you don't want to have garbage service, please assure others that you will be getting rid of your garbage in a timely manner to not negatively affect the other residents of the city. Now, I had called Universal City maybe 2 or 3 years ago to let them know I'm going on vacation. There was no way for me to put out the garbage. I wouldn't be having any garbage because I'm on vacation. When I have called and asked if they could stop garbage for 2 weeks, they told me that they would have to turn off the water also. This is another issue that I need addressed, and I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but the garbage and the water and the sewer should be on 2 separate bills. If I want to go on vacation and discontinue my trash service for any reason, if I am leaving, or if I decide to not want it at this time because I need to cut costs, then I should be allowed to do that. And so you should, if you would like to do that. But in closing, if I or others want to discontinue trash service, we will bring the trash cans up to Universal City or return them to Waste Masters, whichever is appropriate, and therefore not be billed if we do not if we don't possess any trash containers. And myself and others that do not possess the containers need to assure Universal City that we will not be spreading our trash around to affect the neighbors or the city. We need to assure them that we will be taking care of our trash disposal. Now, you can do that any way you'd like. You can tell them exactly the residents can tell them exactly how they feel or how they're gonna dispose of it, or they can let y'all know that they're gonna dispose of the trash and you don't need to worry about how. And as I mentioned earlier, the bill for the water and the bill for the garbage need to be separated. And also, I'm not a garbage sorter. I should not have to separate garbage unless I'm getting paid to do so, really. But that is another subject as well. I do want to finish off by saying I am not a fan of firing someone so only one person can pick up the garbage. I'm really concerned about the other person going to get fired so Waste Masters can use their new convenient way of picking up garbage. So this is going to actually be another subject. giving robots a job instead of an actual person.
Ma'am, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Can I use my time now?
Yes, you may.
I'm Jan Mitchell, I live at 205 Devonta in there by the HEB. I wasn't going to say anything, I'm not prepared to say anything, so just based on what everybody has said, I think I'll send an email to all you guys on the council, and by the way, I appreciate you guys, spending your time and efforts supporting us, who normally just sit at home and let y'all do what y'all want to do, and then we don't like what y'all do, and then we come and tell you about it. So I appreciate y'all listening to everybody's comments tonight, but I walk a lot, and I walk in the alleys a lot of times. And over in our area, of course, I'm not affected by the trash. I'll be up front with y'all on that. I'm not affected by the trash because I have a rear entry garage on my street. I don't have one, but my neighbors do, so they told me that they're going to pick mine up too. So I'm not really being affected by this. But I know a lot of old folks, and I'm one of them, if I had to take that thing out every day, I know that there's a problem with people trying to hide them from view or whatever, from down from the street up to your house. And originally I was told that we were going to have to put some kind of screen around them or whatever. That was going to kind of be a hassle for a lot of people, I'm sure. But I'll tell you what, walking in the alleys, there is a lot of trash. I don't know who walks in the alleys. I walk in the alleys and then I walk in the street every other time. And there's a lot of trash in the alleys. And if you have, I think it's because the trash cans are out there. If you have trash out in the streets, in the front of your houses, you're going to have a lot of trash on the streets. From whatever, lifting them up in, putting them in, trash blows everywhere. I'm telling you, there's a lot of trash. If you walk around, drive around the trash, drive around the alleys. People that have alleys, you'll see a lot of trash in the alleys. Two, my mother lived in Live Oak, and she lived in an area of Live Oak that's kind of considered out in the county, I guess. She wasn't attached, her trash bill wasn't attached to her water bill or her city bill. But one time she was just talking about how much she was paying for trash, and she had to, I said, well, Mom, you have all your trash with the city utility bill. And she says, no, I don't have a separate bill. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And so I said, well, how much is it? She said it was $10 a month. And that was probably, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. But at the time, when I looked at mine was like $15 a month. It was like times 3 because we did it on a 3-month schedule. Or hers was on a 3-month schedule, so hers was like $30, but ours was basically $15 a month. But that's kind of strange. Why is that? Because she's an individual person trying to deal with waste management on her own. And we are a city that you require that everybody has trash pickup and pay for the trash pickup. And I had come to City Hall one day and I just said, hey, I just kind of mentioned this story. And I said, well, why is it that we're paying more and we've got a trash contract that in the city that everybody has to pay it because you have to pay your water bill? And the answer was just kind of like, well, that's just the way it is. It was like this thing, it's already done. It's a done deal. You can't really change anything on it. But, what I wanted to kind of mention was, I think somebody needs to take a good hard look at, maybe y'all probably already did this, where you look at different cities around the area, compare them, what you can get or whatever. But I'm telling you, if you're an individual person, you shouldn't be able to get as good a deal as a big city. Where in her area, not everybody had to take the trash. So if you didn't pay your bill for trash, they could pick up your trash. And so they do it at work or wherever they do it. But, kind of threw that out because some people were making comments about it. But bottom line is, it's a good city. I like living here. I feel safe. The most important thing is feeling safe. The cops are right here. I attended the course a long time ago. And Lieutenant Parr and his guys are doing an excellent job. And really happy with that. And like when I go on vacation, the lady was letting me go on vacation, I tell the police that I'm going to be gone for, I shouldn't tell you all this, but several months. And they come check on the house, and they do a great job. So I know that they're doing a good job, so. Okay, thanks so much, appreciate you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for your time. My name is Patricia Donahue. I live at 326 Balboa Drive, Universal City, that is in Coronado Village. I watched a video posted next door from YouTube that showed the sidearm trash receptacles, the trash trucks that are going to be coming. And I noticed in the video that there were no cars parked along the side of the streets as it was going down the streets, in the cul-de-sacs, or anywhere else. I don't know in your neighborhoods, but in Coronado Village, we have people who park their cars on the curb. Because sometimes you have a one-car driveway, but you have 3 drivers in the household, and they have 3 vehicles. There's nowhere else to put it. The second concern I have with the side receptacle lifters is I have trees that are near the edge of the street, and currently they meet all UC requirements for trimming the branches. They're not going to clear the trucks, and having to take more height, having to take more limbs off my tree. It's a red oak. It's been there for 20 years. I really don't want to lose the tree. And I'm concerned because of oak wilt and things like that, and damage to the tree. But I'm not the only one. There were no mailboxes next to the curbs where these trash cans were being picked up. They were about 4 feet back. So there wasn't any impediment there. I'm thinking about the truck coming down the road and the mail carrier and meeting there because mail gets picked up, mail gets delivered approximately the same time the garbage gets picked up. I'm retired, I'm home, I know, I hear it. I have an alleyway. I love my alleyway, as it's been mentioned. That was a selling feature for me. My house was built in the 60s. I think we need to maintain the alleyways. I thank you for revisiting the contract this evening. I really hope we can find some way. I'm one of those senior citizens. That 96-gallon thing is going to be a monstrosity for me, and I'm not going to be able to move it easily down my driveway. I appreciate a choice in the sizes. I don't make that much trash anymore. So thank you for your time and for your reconsideration. Have a good evening.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much for your input. Thank you very much for your input. And we decided to take a look at this issue again because of the input that we've received from a lot of you. And I will tell you this, from a factual standpoint, we spent a long amount of time discussing this issue many months ago. And I just want you to know that your council just didn't say, this is cool, let's go for it, okay? We really examined it very deeply. The input we got from you this evening was very good, thank you. Thank you, we appreciate it very much. So let's move on now, okay? Move on to the business at hand. Oh, excuse me. First one is tab number B, consider approval of pay estimate number 5, invoice for the West Byrd Drainage Project Phase 2. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this is a CDBG project, and we do need to have approval of each pay estimate in order for us to submit it for reimbursement. So this is pay estimate number 5 in the amount of $57,028.10 to RL Rohde for the West Byrd Drainage Project. We are nearing the completion of that project, so you should see 1, possibly only 2 more invoices moving forward.
Okay, for the benefit of your audience, those of you who are here for the first time or just a few times, Community Development Block Grant, that money comes from the county. It's the federal money that's put down through the state that comes to the county. And we can thank County Precinct Commissioner Calvert for Precinct 4, which is where we are, for the continuing support of these projects we have. And it's in the millions and millions and millions of dollars. that we've received thanks to our county commissioner. And that, so this is before us this evening. It's a very routine, but it's something we have to enact on.
Move for approval.
Second. Councilmember Shelby, second Councilmember Najarian. Any discussion?
Quick question.
Yes, one question.
Are we running on budget on this project?
We did one change order.
Yeah, we have one coming.
We had one change order, small one.
Which will be on the next pay estimate?
It could be on the next one or the following one, because we'll have to release retainage.
I'm sorry?
We'll have two more, because we'll have to release retainage, so we got two more coming, so it could be on the second one.
Thank you.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, please, Chris.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Move on now to tab C. Excuse me for my voice, it's been, something's in the air. Consider ordinance 662A 2022, ordinance amending ordinance 662 and approving a first amendment to the agreement with the UC 440 LLC Texas to program economic incentives for public project enhancements, development standards, emergency services, correlated infrastructure relating to the development of the Civil Crossing single-family subdivision in Universal City, providing for an open meeting and establishing a savings clause and an effective date. This will be our first reading. Ms. Stern?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, when they were working on the Civil Crossing subdivision, which is going to be at the end of Kitty Hawk that way, just so people know where we're talking about, that the Sunrise Canyon and Kitty Hawk. One of the options we always have when there's a subdivision, if we're going to be doing street improvements in that area, we can roll our street improvements in with theirs and get some cost estimate on it and also get some cost sharing. So we did that with that particular project, knowing we were going to be putting some sidewalks in and doing an asphalt overlay. Now that we are closer to that project happening, we realize that the asphalt overlay is insufficient for the substructure of that area along Kitty Hawk. So we are proposing to make an amendment to the development agreement to have a total reconstruction on that area, as well as the widening to provide for the sidewalks. So this particular development agreement is just lay out the particulars of that project and to get it approved to move from the asphalt overlay to a reconstruction with the city paying their portion.
Move for approval.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Shelby. Have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Najarian. Any discussion further? It's pretty explanatory what we need to do. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're changing from an overlay to a reconstruction.
Yes, sir.
And that is going to change our cost as well as the developer's cost?
So the developer's cost is changing slightly because they are, remember, we're cost sharing on the engineering and they're also paying for some sidewalks. So theirs is changing slightly, but the greatest portion of the change is ours.
Okay, but there's no concern with the developer having an issue with us changing some of their costs?
No, that's why we have it through the development agreement. They've already agreed to add this back into their project.
Okay, and as far as the additional cost, we have that budgeted?
Yes, so you know I don't want to get too far ahead, but we are about ready to complete the East Aviation project, which is a TxDOT reimbursement project. So we do have funding coming back from that project, and those funds will be forwarded over to this project to pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Randy, just for you, please. I went through this quite a bit, and just for the layman like me, could you just give me a quick, or give us a quick breakdown of what was wrong with the substructure that was there, and the type of improvements going to make it better?
Well, the original road, that's the original road pavement design that's out there, so it's quite outdated right now as far as that condition. But the other improvements, not only doing the subgrade, so we'll compact it from subgrade, lime tree, geogrid, flex base, type B, hot mix with a 2-inch overlay. What's also included in part of these improvements is the widening of it. As you go on over there, it's like 42 feet right away down to an 18-foot right away. So we're going to continue that with 30 feet right away, so it'll look just like a residential road going to the new subdivision through there. It will tie into Silver Springs and Manorcide as well. And we are extending the sidewalk where ends right now at Sunrise Canyon to this new subdivision going through there. There will be a temporary stopgap because we have to do some negotiations with one of the property owners with the sidewalk.
And just one other question I noticed on here, you've got in these plans, you're preserving some of the curves, but then I see some where you're adding curves that so they're not there now, or the widening.
Correct. So right there in front of the existing, from Manor side to Sunrise Canyon, where you have existing residential on one side and you have the high curb on the lower side. The high curb will remain. That is to protect the properties down below because their property foundations are lower than the street elevation. The residential side, those curbs will remain. The driveway approaches, sidewalks, everything will remain over there. There's nothing wrong in that particular section because that's an older section. That's a newer section when that was built. It's the older section that we're trying to rebuild. But we will cut it back 2 feet from the curb and rebuild inside of the 2 curbs all the way up to Sunrise Canyon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else, Bill? Okay. Rob?
Thank you. What's the, sorry, before you run off, what's the impact for traffic through there during the project and how long are we expecting it to last?
So the project will be done in 2 phases. From Sunrise Canyon, probably, I don't know if y'all know Mrs. Wallace's property, to her driveway, more or less. That will be done in 1 phase. We will be closing off Silver Springs and Manor side to complete that. So basically we'll have traffic just for construction to come around to the neighborhood around. So at least we'll have one way in at all times. So when we finish from Sunrise Canyon to the property line of Miss Wallace, they'll actually be going the back way in, and then once we complete the front side, they'll be able to come in that direction.
So it's not so much that we'll be driving more traffic through the neighborhoods, we'll be driving the traffic that's already going out there, will just go a different direction.
Correct, we'll reroute them in a different direction while we're doing the construction.
Thank you.
I do have a question. So they're building a lot of houses back there.
Correct.
When is this going to be done, and what will the heavy vehicles do to the road if it's done before they're?
Well, during the construction, they'll have, right now, they're getting close to paving the interior of that subdivision. So all the heavy work, that's why they're wanting to move outside the subdivision now. So all that heavy excavation through there is just about completed. So if they start this, they want to move the heavy equipment from the inside to the outside onto Kitty Hawk.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we do have a motion in a second, so take the vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville?
Aye.
Councilmember Volle?
Aye.
Motion passes. This is one of the last developing areas that we have in Universal City. I think you know where it is, correct? Right down Kitty Hawk there. Yeah, so it's something this one needs to be done. So let's move on then to tab number D, which is discuss and to approve a financing plan for the issuance of General Obligation Bond Series 2022.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, during 2010, the city did hold a special elections and asked the voters to approve a $20 million bond proposition for street repairs. So far, we've issued that in 4 segments, so we have about $3.1 million left. We've done that in a 12-year period. And so we have through the $3.145 million left. Obviously, the street projects need to continue. That is one of the most expensive propositions that we have in the city. So at this time, while the interest rate remains low, we are asking you to approve a financing plan so that we can move forward with the issuance of that $3.1 million. And of course, you all know Victor Quiroga. He's been serving our city for, I'm going to say almost 20 years, but he doesn't look that old. So I'll just say 15 years, and we'll go with that. And so he's going to go over the financing plan with you and ask any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Victor.
Honorable Mayor and members of council, Mr. Chairman, thank you for having me here this evening. For the record, my name is Victor Quiroga with Specialized Public Finance, and we have the honor of representing the city as your financial advisors. We're here this evening to seek your approval in allowing us to move forward on the remaining authorization that was granted to the city by its voters in 2010. And so we're considering this evening the financing plan to move forward with issuing that remaining authorization. So we prepared a brief presentation here for you. So the first page after the cover sheet, as Ms. Turner alluded to, interest rates are still low. They are rising, and we see that in the newspaper. It's been pretty volatile here lately with everything else going on in the world. However, this graph that you've seen before but now updated is a 10-year look back at municipal bond interest rates. This is an interest rate segment where we have tax-exempt bonds like all of our bonds are. And so we're able to get lower interest rates on these type of tax-exempt bonds. But looking back for the last 10 years, you can see here where we've been. We've historically, we're still at a historically low interest rate environment. So when you put it in perspective, yes, interest rates are rising, but right now we're still at historically low interest rate environment. This graph will show you is that 80% of the time from now, before this, interest rates were higher. So it's still a good time if you're needing to issue bonds and lock in an interest rate. We're still in a favorable environment to do so. If you go to the next page, this is a little small for folks that are looking at this on the screen, but this is your general obligation, your existing debt profile, and these are the bonds that the city has outstanding that are supported by general obligation or property taxes. And so you can see here we have 8 issuances outstanding. The total principal amount that the city owes is a little over $21 million. This data here will show you when each specific bond issuance, when it's going to be finally paid off, and also when it's callable, meaning that you could pay it down or refinance if you chose to do so. Overall, the city is in fantastic shape. Most of this debt will be falling off the books here relatively quickly. If you can see in the bottom right side, currently Standard & Poor's, which is an independent rating agency, has us rated at a AA+. And so we'll show you what that means here on the next slide and what that is. So basically, we're currently rated by Standard & Poor's, who is an investment outside independent body that reviews the city's financials and your overall credit profile. This rating that's attached to cities based on how much debt you have outstanding, how many property values you have on the ground. This rating is important because it impacts your marketability on the bonds, meaning how many interested investors throughout the country can we find for your bond issuances, and most importantly, how low of an interest rate we're able to get you based on market conditions. So ratings are a very important part of this. So right now, Standard & Poor's has us rated at a AA+. And if we go to the next slide, you can see a chart where this is Standard & Poor's rating scale. So essentially, we're just one notch below the best and most perfect rating available for municipal bonds, and that's a AAA rating. And so you're just one notch below that. So that's an indication that the city is in fantastic shape. And in the past, when we've issued bonds for you, we found a multitude of investors that have been interested in purchasing Universal City bonds. There's a red line there and a dashed red line. Anything below that, that's what we call, and what folks have heard, is junk bonds. And so we're nowhere close to that. Again, when rating agencies look at the city, they look at 2 factors. One, things that you can't control. You can't control the property values that are inside your city, the economic activity. You can't really control that too much. But they also grade you and judge you on things that you can control, and that's how conservatively are you budgeting, are we managing expenses, are we building strong reserve funds. And so everything that the city is doing is doing fantastically, and this is the reason why you're one notch below the best rating you can have as a municipal bond issuer. If you go to the next slide, just again a little bit more background on the 2010 bond program. This is specifically for streets and drainage. In May 8, 2010, we had a successful bond election for an amount of $19.5 million. The voters allowed you to issue that amount of debt on their behalf to address these projects. Since that time, as Ms. Turner indicated, we've issued 4 bond issuances for $16,355,000. Currently, the remaining authorization is $3,145,000 of that bond program. So the financing goals, based on your approval this evening, again, we're not locking in interest rates at this point. We're just trying to get direction from the city council and allowing us to move forward with the bond documentation necessary to enter the bond market. We would go ahead and issue the remaining bond authorizations that you legally have available to you that were authorized by the voters. We would recommend that we use a competitive sale method as we've done in the past, where we bid it out and whoever gives us the lowest interest rate on these bonds will be awarded those bonds. That would be scheduled to occur based on your approval this evening at your Tuesday, April 19th council meeting. At that meeting, I will bring to you the bids that we received, and we would also recommend that you approve the lowest interest rate bidder. Based off of that action, the bond proceeds will be delivered into your project account on May 18th, and no meeting is required for closing. That's just done via bank wire. If you go to the next page, please. This is the preliminary repayment schedule that we were discussing with Ms. Turner and staff regarding how to structure these bonds. There is, what you would be considering in your future agenda is to potentially be paying off some debt early. And so what we wanted to do is just keep the overall debt structure level, so we won't create any roller coaster effects on your overall debt repayment plan. But again, this would be a 20-year term. The numbers I'm using here are conservative because I'm using a conservative interest rate of 2.55%. We hope to come below that when next time you see me in April. But again, this would be a 20-year repayment term with a fixed interest rate is what would be proposed. The final page here, ladies and gentlemen, is a term sheet. This is essentially just a summary of the bond transaction and how it's going to be structured. Just like your existing debt, where we'll be making semi-annual interest payments and annual principal payments over the next 20 years. Right now, Standard & Poor's does have us rated at an A+, but we'll be visiting with them the next couple of weeks to give them an update on our financials and everything going on in the city. But we don't anticipate any changes at this time with respect to your strong credit rating. Again, this will take us into the market next month on April 19th, and we hope to bring you back a favorable interest rate at that time where we could lock it in and move forward with the remaining street program. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, let me go ahead and entertain a motion, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I will move to approve.
Move to approve.
Mr. Najarian and Ms. Volle. Okay, let's open it up for discussion. Any specific questions of Victor? I think you understand the audience that AA+ is almost absolutely perfect. It's been a long, hard time to get where we are. It took a lot of wear and tear, took a lot of discussion, a lot of work, and Victor has done an enormous job in helping us get phenomenal rates. And so we expect nothing more than that.
The pressure's on.
Pressure's on. Okay, discussion.
I have a quick and easy question. Are we big enough to get AAA?
Oh, that's it. Unfortunately, the stuff that I said earlier that you are controlling, you're doing a phenomenal job. The fact that we're landlocked, there's really no room to grow. In that aspect, we'll probably somewhat discriminate against. So I don't think that's a likely event to happen.
Thank you.
Sure, John.
Just real quick. It's all right. I only had two. You took one. I'll take one up. It says down here on your page 8, it says assumes a conservative interest rate of 2.55 for planning purposes. What's the rate right now?
If we're in the market today, we'd probably be about 2.35, 2.4%. Certainly a little higher than the last time you saw me last year when we've been refinancing a lot of our bonds. But overall, for a 20-year transaction, we'll be locking in that rate for that long period of time. It's still pretty favorable market conditions right now.
And so making you into a soothsayer right now.
Yeah.
In your best looking at what's going down the line when we're talking about in April and locking things in, you don't see a big fluctuation between.
Yeah, my favorite line is my crystal ball's pretty foggy and murky, and I don't know what rates are going to do next week. But I'm hopeful that the cushion that I built in these conservative numbers, that we'll be able to come below that one next time you see me.
You've always given us great answers, and you've always been very knowledgeable. So when you say something, now I expect a little better rate than this.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I do, sir. Okay. This is more for Kim, and it's just more for reiteration. The projects will be in the older sections of town, East Aviation and West Aviation districts, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need.
We can't really say which streets because, you know, the cost of construction has gone up so much, so we kind of need to look at where we know we need to do it and try to figure out how much we can get done with the funding that we receive, based on what the cost is at that
And based on
particular time.
need.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Again, this will be the final bond issuance of that $19 million that was approved back in 2010. So this is the fifth, I think, the fifth rendition of this. We'll complete this entire obligation that the citizens did approve back in 2010. We've been able to do significant amount of work in helping our streets get better and better and better. We can't do them all at the same time, but I think we've done really due diligence in trying to figure out which are the best streets to continue to improve upon. So this will be the fifth rendition, which will obligate the final little over $3 million. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Any other specific questions?
I just want to say, Victor's done a great job for all these years. It's really helped us get the best.
But no, the pressure's on again.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion by anybody? All right, first call for that vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Look
it.
forward to seeing you in April.
Mayor, I just want to mention what we have coming up on the next agenda, since we'll be seeing Victor several times more. So as you know, we will be paying off some debt service, which I expect to see on the April 5th or the April 19th agenda. At the same time, Noel Valdez, who is our bond counsel, will be back to talk to the council about getting a special election put together so that we can go back out and get voter approval for the next cycle. Now, again, when I'm asking for voter approval, I don't mean we're issuing debts. We're just asking the voters to give us the ability to issue debt for the next 20 or 30 years in order to continue with street improvements. So he'll be bringing that to you so that we can get on the ballot for November.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a no tab. It's to discuss police/fire substation. This was an item brought up by Mr. Neville, and that's why it's being brought before council proceeding.
Thank you. Yes, this was an item that was brought up by Councilmember Neville, and when he asked, the question that he asked, and thank you, Mr. Neville, for clarifying it for me, is what would it cost to put in a police substation? So, police fire substation. So the chiefs did get together, particularly Chief Casares, and they went out and found some other substations that were put in the last 3 to 5 years to figure out what they were looking for on that. So I'm just going to go over our general items, what we found, and then we can answer any questions that you might have, and then we'll also discuss some alternatives.
Okay.
Kristen, do you have the PowerPoint presentation?
No, can I go grab it?
Sure, we'll wait.
Should we get a leak in there? That's very dry.
Awfully quiet. But I think it's important that you get to see the entire PowerPoint presentation as it's being delivered to us this evening for the first time as well. And I hope that you all understand too, and I made this statement before to all of you, but some of you are relatively new here, is that this council, the only time that they get to interact together is right here. There is no other opportunity to do that. And so I think you need to be aware that that's the case, that the agendas are published 72 hours in advance, which is the first time the council has a chance to look at these agendas and to prepare. So they get basically 72 hours, 3 days, in which to actually put together their thought process and call, talk to staff, whatever, and do their due diligence before we meet in council to discuss these issues. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that it's just something that if we just get with each other and discuss it beforehand, it has to happen, and only at a council meeting, because there's very stringent rules, what are called the Open Meetings Act, and it's extremely restrictive, and it's by nature, so that there isn't some potential direction taken that should not have been taken.
Like that, it's a criminal offense, not a civil offense. We could go to jail and we talk to each other outside of council.
So basically what you're saying is don't get discuss it among yourselves until the meeting.
That's correct.
But what about y'all, if you get something on the agenda that's setting here, can you talk to citizens and get their input?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can speak for all of them. We definitely seek that information, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As Mr. Neville pointed out, it is a criminal offense for us to do anything that's not totally legitimate, and that would not be fine.
After tonight, though, you all can discuss this, like the fire station and the police station, after tonight.
If it becomes an agendized item, yes, of course.
Well, okay.
But in terms of discussing it after the meeting is over, no, we can't.
Oh, okay.
We can't do it.
I thought, okay, so this is not an agenda item, it's just discussion.
That's correct.
It could be a.
It's not an agenda, it's an agenda item, and not an action agenda item.
Nothing worse than looking for something when you know you have 50 people waiting on it. There we go. Thank you, Kristen. We'll go to the next slide. So what we did is we looked at some recent projects that were done in other cities, and we just kind of took a general swath at what they found, and we put that together for you this evening. So we know that the estimated land needed for a fire substation is between 1 and 3 acres based on, you know, equipment and parking and turn radiuses and all the other things besides the footprint of the building. The average cost right now per acre is between $100,000 and $130,000, so you're looking between $100,000 and $390,000 just for the land itself. So that would be the one-time expense. The second item that you need to look at is the design build. So typically the design runs about 15% of the building costs. Estimated that you'd need between a 6,000 and 9,000 square foot building. And we have found out, you know, fire construction for a fire station is not just your standard commercial. They have a lot of things that they have to have for their buildings that aren't typical to other buildings. So we know that fire construction costs have gone up 30% over the last 2 years based on some of the recent projects that were done. So on construction costs, they're anywhere between $400 and $565 per square foot. That does not include the ongoing maintenance of the building and the grounds. So for design, you're looking between $360,000 and $765,000, and for construction, somewhere between $2.6 million to $5 million, depending on the size of the building. So FF&E, that's fixture, furniture, and equipment, and your IT, that would be, you know, lights, equipment, radios, computers, the other things that they would need to have. reminding you that fire stations also have to have additional FF&E because they're considered a living environment. So they basically have to have a lot of the same components that a hotel room would have in it, which is another reason why the expenses would go up, because you have to have a certain commercial grade. So that would be running you between $265,000 to $400,000. And then there is the ongoing issue, which is the staff and vehicles. So you'd have to have 2 or 3 firefighters per shift, remembering that the shifts run 24/7, 365. And then in addition to that, because you have 2 stations, now you're having to add in a command staff. So you have captains who are having to command 2 separate staffs. So that would have to occur as well. And then the type of vehicles that you would have to have would depend on your staff size plus the ongoing maintenance of those vehicles. And so understanding from Chief Caceres that if you had to have all of the equipment, you'd have to try to figure out what you were going to have at the main station and what you would have at a substation and how you would break those up. So on your staffing, you're looking at about $60,000 per year for a firefighter. That is a brand new firefighter. That is not including any increases that you would have to have in your staff. So, and the vehicles probably would end up having to serve a dual purpose, which is always a good thing anyways. So staff-wise, you're looking to $360,000 to $540,000 annually, and equipment, you're looking between $750,000 to $1.2 million.
Any comments, questions? Mr. Turner at this time? Okay, proceed.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next item. So, you know, we talk about alternative ways always to provide the best services that we can. And so there are some preemptive technologies that we could use in order to provide better police and fire services. One of them that we have is called the optical system, and that is a sensor on the traffic signal and cabinets in the city vehicles. And what this does is it actually sends a signal, and they know that the police or the fire are coming, and it turns the traffic signal to their advantage where all the other traffic stops. Now we have one of those in the city right now. It's the one here at Pat Booker and Universal City Boulevard, but it's not working on an optical system. It's a very old system. Yes, thank you, sir. We are pushing a button in the dispatch office, and it is telling that signal out there to the right. So there is a telephone line that runs from here to there, and it works. So that is the only one that we have right now. So the optical system would be about $4,000 per intersection, and of course we would want to do all the intersections. And then it's estimated about $1,000 per vehicle, and like anything else, it would require some TxDOT cooperation, simply because a lot of our lights are on TxDOT roads, mainly Pat Booker Road and FM 78 and Loop 1604. And so that would require that. Now that is a line of sight. It's probably one of the older systems that they have. There is a new radio GPS system, which probably would serve us better long term. And it uses radio frequency and a GPS antenna. It is a kit, it gets installed. It doesn't have any line of sight issues like trees or any other things that might be in the way. There is no maintenance, and it gets built into the light bars that you see on the top of the vehicles. So that is estimated about $4,000 per intersection and about $4,000 per vehicle, and still would require TxDOT cooperation. So what that would do is obviously enhance the speed and the ease at which the police and fire could get to a particular location.
Okay, Mr. Neville.
Excuse me. I want to thank her staff for taking care of it. I see that this is a substation for fire only.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Okay.
the police department, they do not want a substation. So their vehicles are their substation. Most everything that they need is in there, with the exception of coming in.
They're out there anyway.
They're out there anyway. What we really need to think about in the future with
Right.
police and fire. So we know that as we continue to add density and businesses to the available land that we have, and I know we're trying to maximize it as much as we can, that will have a strain on your police and fire services. So First, you should be looking at technology, which we can use to greatly enhance their efficiency and their capabilities. And then the second thing you need to look at is some staffing. So with and I know you all, I think you may have it in your packet this time, you have the map that shows where the districts are for the fire and the police and where their calls go to. Some of those districts are quite large. It would be better, particularly for the police department, if we had additional officers on shifts and we could make those districts a little bit smaller so that we can spend more time in them. They do cross over now, but having additional staffing in that area as we continue to grow will be beneficial, and will be the same for the fire department, and having a staff member on each shift so that we can beef up our fire protection. Understanding that that is costly, and it's one of those things that we probably would have to roll in over time.
Would it require more manning, or we split what we have here, there?
If there was a substation,
Yeah.
it would require, I just went through that, 6 to 9 more personnel.
Okay.
More.
That didn't say it, it just said.
$260,000, $360,000 to $540,000 a year just for firemen.
Have there been any possible sites like that?
No.
No. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Shelby?
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Mayor. So as a former volunteer firefighter from the 90s, and having run calls out of this station, actually let me go back further. Being the child of the assistant chief and running calls when my dad took me out of the library, I've seen many years how we've managed to service that side of the city. One of the major changes, and I think you've addressed that in there, is that we have a lot more lights on Kitty Hawk than we ever had. So to get from here to Cimarron, you were talking about UC Boulevard. You didn't have to worry about Pat Booker because you'd have the dispatch hit the light. UC Boulevard, 1604, Cimarron Trail. That's recent. Within the last, I'm talking.
Oh, since then, you are.
Talking in the 90s.
Yes.
So we've added Walmart, HEB, and I think that's it.
The school.
The school.
The school. Well, the schools are the Kitty Hawk, Cimarron Trail. So that's our biggest slowdown getting through there, is because we have a lot of traffic going through there, and if the lights don't change, we have to wait for people to get out of the way.
Yes.
To get
That's
through.
why we think the preemptive system would be the first step.
Is each individual light will respond, will each light respond individually, or will they trigger off each other, so basically throw them all green?
Let me ask an expert.
So it depends on which system you go with. With the optical system, it's going to be a line of sight, and so you won't have that ability until you turn the corner for that to pick up that you're coming that way. With the GPS system, they will essentially run in sequence because they're being picked up off a 900 megahertz radio frequency, so it's a lot smarter than the optical system.
Since you stood up, what's our current response time over there?
Depending on what part of that, we pulled a Najarian map showing response times to that general area, Rifle Gap, and to that side of town, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on what type of call it is.
With the light system as it is now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say top traffic, all the lights. So we add the light system. Do we have any general idea? I mean, we're going to shave off a couple of minutes, we think?
It's really hard to tell. A lot of factors there. School zones, time of day, rush hour traffic. So yeah, there's a lot of factors there, but I would feel safe saying that it'd shave off at least a minute or two.
Mm-hmm. And while I have a general idea of what our rescue to fire calls are, what is it currently, just for percentage fire to rescue? Like,
we're still sitting at around 80 to 85% to EMS versus about 15, 20 fire.
So if we added a station over there, because it would be doing both, we'd be putting a fire apparatus over there most likely to run rescue calls as well as fire calls.
So anything we put over there is gonna have to be dual purpose, and then it's all gonna be dependent on the amount of staffing that we decide to put.
And as far as wear and tear on a fire vehicle to run for rescue calls, that's pretty high.
So we would go more with a small, quick response vehicle, similar to rescue, but something that would have a
bumper on it,
Class 8 bumper on it.
Okay. But we'd still be putting a lot of stress on it because of the water it has to carry. Sorry.
And I'm sorry, when you asked about the response time, so we also looked from the fire station to the farthest point, which would be down at, Langley kind of where it flows down there, which is the same response time. And again, it's because the travel is down Pat Booker Road with all of the lights. It has more traffic than Kitty Hawk, but it has more lights. So there are certain areas, yes, that would do it. Also, we always make the assumption that the police and the fire, when they're called, that they're sitting right here, which a lot of times they're not. They're somewhere else. They may be closer, they may be. But I think in the preemptive, if we went with the radio GPS system, we could actually pick up a response call everywhere around the city.
I was to say, if we're already talking to Tech Stop because we have to get their buy-in for Pat Booker and, Kitty Hawk and 1604, we might as well talk to them about Pat Booker Road.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, you're probably gonna wanna do it for everything, so you'll have to do the coordination.
So for substantially less amount of money than building a substation, staffing it, equipping it, we could improve the response times of the entire city.
Right, and one of the things that we looked at is in terms of what you had talked about in call volume, is it mostly for EMS or is it for fire? And we do know, as he said, it's about 80% of that is for EMS service, which happens mostly during the day, right? So they do have a ambulance service at the Live Oak station now, which we did it every time from here to Mr. Neville's house and from Live Oak to Mr. Neville's house, and it's about the same time.
One other question. As far as fire response to that side of town, we have Converse and Live Oak also who are going to meet us on any structure call because we call them immediately, correct? Because we're a mutual aid agreement.
Correct.
As we do for them as well. Yes, if they call us, we go to them as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, again, let's see, you took that question.
I left my fire
question. That question. And that was going to be part of mine about the difference in calls between, the fire and the EMS. I mean, substation down that area. I know we're building, we're looking to rebuild the aviation area in our plan for the future being where people are going to be meeting and greeting and less car traffic, more foot, more bicycle, thing like that. Which means if even looking at this, the only reason to do anything out there is EMS at this point in time. I don't know if you're looking more in the future, but just I'm trying to run through my head here. How many intersections are you looking at? So 4K per intersection. Did we even have a number in our head as far as how many intersections we're talking about? I'm trying to go through my head. I can't figure it out.
So we have
a lot less than the other.
The city has 4 of its own on Kitty Hawk. And Tech Stop, yeah, how many?
12, I believe.
Yeah, so, 16 to 17 intersections.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. That's all I had.
And again, when we're talking apparati, we should just think fire trucks, because you have to remember they have command vehicles as well. The chiefs and the captains, and then also for the police department, obviously they have a plethora of vehicles that can be used on as well.
Well, thank you. In a standard response, let's say for a major accident, we're going to roll a command vehicle, a fire truck, a rescue truck, and the ambulance. Correct?
Correct.
So we're going to have a lot of vehicles blowing down the road. But yeah, and how long does the light stay green, by the way? Is it stay until we pass it, basically?
I don't have that answer entirely, but everyone that I've seen work, it'll work until it gets all those vehicles past a certain, of course on the GPS, when past a certain point where the GPS drops it off.
Yeah, I'm just thinking as we have, let's say for some reason the fire trucks up at HEB getting groceries, and they roll out of there, and then they'll trigger the light, and the squad comes around the corner, heading the same direction. Would we also work with Sherp's EMS to equip their ambulances as well?
Yeah, I believe they bring the
So,
same.
I believe they're already equipped on their.
Oh, fantastic.
Commissioner?
If it was to go, do you have a ultimate place where you would site it?
A substation?
Yeah.
As of right now, no, sir. I've been told to gather information on cost as a starting point, and I will be looking at other areas that are vulnerable to us in the future. But as of right now, I do not have a specific location where I believe would be the best fit.
Thanks, Chief. I got one more question.
Sure.
Yeah. Where would you get the money?
I don't know, Councilman Neville, where would you get the money? You would have to float a bond.
Well, maybe the citizens could.
Oh, I see. You would have to float a bond issue, a very large one.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to look at your current tax rate to figure out how you're going to have your maintenance and operation and pay for your firefighters and your command staff. Because if you just said that each penny, and again, I'm rounding, nobody quote me on this. If you said that each penny on the tax rate was about $100,000 in tax revenue, then you're looking at 6 to 8 cents on your current tax rate in order to support a substation in terms of employment and for paying off the bond.
And that would maybe bring us above the 3.5%,
Yes, so that would drastically bring you above your 3.5%.
which would almost prevent us from doing
That would be an assumption, but,
Yeah.
So one of the items, and I think this is what Councilmember Najarian was alluding to, is that as we go about in transforming the aviation district to make it walkable and have the life at night and access to other goods and services that currently are not there, obviously, if we're going to have life at night and things are going to be happening in that area, we have had general discussions about where would we place a medic center down there, right? You've probably seen it in other areas where you've traveled. You see the big red cross, and it usually means that if you're in trouble or you need medical, you can go there. Now, we may end up having to have a small place, not necessarily for staffing and parking apparatus all the time, but if there were an event or something big was happening, obviously we'd need to have medical personnel and police presence there, just like we do at Snowfest and all of our other events. But we would need one particular staging area for them. So as we continue to redevelop that area, we'll be trying to incorporate that into that plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
It was a good topic of discussion. That's why Mr. Neville wanted it to be brought up. We need to take a look at this, potentially in the future. Is it something that we really believe we need in our community to service the entire area? We do have great interlocal agreements with our other cities, but maybe the time can come in the future where that's going to be a necessity. But we have to, that's why all these factors are being brought up. Sorry, ma'am, we can't discuss it. So, now, when we're offline, we can discuss
I
it
just
at
had
any
a
time.
question for them.
Okay.
Sure.
Well,
sure.
I can catch you afterward. How about that?
Yeah, very
And
good.
then I guess my question is, I need some direction. So, you know, you've asked for the information and you've given it to us. What would you like us to do with this information?
I'm sorry.
That's a big question.
I'm just thinking that the, bringing the infrastructure as far as the lights, the sensors and everything else, as far as, the response time right there alone is gonna pick everything up. I think that's going into the future. We've been talking about making sure that we stay with going in the future, and that seems to me the most progressive way to do that without really putting out. That's a lot less money. That's something that we can do fairly easily without putting a big stress on the budget, and something that would give a fantastic result for the city as a whole.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One way or another, we need to do the traffic light system. I mean, whether we have a substation or not, we need to improve our response times in the city. It's the most expedient way to improve our response times. It's also going to improve the safety of the fire staff, the fire department, the vehicles, the cars, everything when we're trying, where it's hard to not think I'm on the fire department anymore, but everything that's involved with going code 3 through a city and having to run lights and having to watch for all the cars. If we have the ability, they have the ability to have those lights change, we need to be doing it anyway. Thank you.
I was going to say real quickly, just
Go ahead, Paul.
as a sub, you put that button that we're pushing now, we all seen that the lights blinking.
I want the
or that wouldn't change there on Pat Booker, Universal City. Yeah, something's going wrong with that button, so we need to do something about that pretty quick. It's been working for 30 years.
It's worked for 30 years. Some years, so we're going to have it.
I think you have some direction here that we would like to see taken, that is to speed up that process.
Excellent. Well, what we'll do is we'll go back. We have some amenable to council. We have some funds within our ARPA program that are unidentified where they're going to go because we haven't received the second tranche. So if we have your consensus to move forward, we'll start getting those estimates and figure out how to do that through the ARPA funding. That way it doesn't have any impact on the
You got it.
budget.
You got it.
Fantastic.
You got it.
There you go.
Thanks, man. Next item is a no-tab. We're going to go into a closed session now. This is the Texas Government Code Section 551-071 for attorney consultation regarding consultation with the attorney to discuss legal questions regarding the waste management franchise agreement. And this is what we're going to do right now. We'll go into closed session and we'll come back out as quickly as we can. So thank you very much. Take a break. The restrooms are right around the bend there if you need to go to the restroom, and hope to see you fairly soon. It is now 8:25. We're going into closed session. All right, thank you everyone for sticking around. I'm sorry it took so long, but there was lots of reasons for have this closed session. And I really appreciate you guys hanging around for that. It is now 9:20. We'll reconvene into the open session. And we did have consultation with our attorney regarding the waste management contract. At this time, no action will be taken as a result of that closed session. But we will now open the discussion session and hear from your council members. You can hear some of the discussion that I think is really pertinent for you to get from your members of your council. Well, I'll open up. Who would like to go first in the conference? Mr. Najarian.
I'll go ahead and raise it up. I know this has been a long time. There's been information, good, bad, and ugly out there. A lot of residents don't feel that they've had enough time, that we didn't give them any information as a city. It's been out there for a while. I'll address a couple of questions that came up. So, you know, why did we put it off before? We've been pushing this can down the road about 7 years as far as renegotiating what's going on, because whether it's Republic, ABC, XYZ, Waste Management, all these companies are going to this automated. And you know, we as a city, I've gotten used to putting all my bags out there and then just picking it up. And Waste Management, there's been a few problems, but Waste Management has been just picking it up no matter what I put out there. And I know a lot of you residents the same way. But that's just not the way it is anymore with these side trucks. You know, it's got to be put in the can, trying to figure out a way to keep things safe. That's what, you know, they've been talking about. Bottom line, talking with our attorney and what was with the Waste Management, there is no renegotiating this particular deal. We entered into this deal as far as they're concerned in good faith, and they don't want to do anything at this point. They're not gonna do anything at this point to change that. With that said, I can only speak for me. When a few people say, I don't believe you really read, that we didn't read through the contracts or look what was for the best for the city. Again, if you want to, again, just speaking for me, if you want to crucify me for this, I will give you what my thinking was when we first brought this up. When we're talking about negotiating with other companies to bring it up for negotiation. As I said, all these companies are going to be siloed or be automated. Coming up, we were pushing the can down the road. Really couldn't push that can down the road any longer. In good faith, a lot of the other companies that we're talking about, we're going to be giving the services that Waste Management, again, this is how I read it, weren't going to be giving the services, the amount of service that Waste Management could provide, number one. But number two, which was a clincher for me in my vote, was the fact that even if they could, they would be going down, we would be talking about 1 day a week service. And as far as I was concerned, that was a no-go. This city is used to 2 day a week service and picking things up. The 96-gallon containers, they wanted to go, I believe, we were talking about two annual brush pickups. Twice a year. We're saying, like, that's not good enough. They weren't going to be doing it every year. That wasn't, part of that. We negotiated 4. So quarterly, you've got your spring and your fall, and in between we're looking at the 96-gallon, which again there's some other misinformation out there that other cities had the opportunity. Something I heard tonight, Texas, Oklahoma, Texoma region, which we are in. We can't get the smaller cans. It was 90. It's the 96. With all the amount of brush that they weren't going to be providing at this time, we negotiated from 2 to 4. And my thinking was, well, with these bigger cans, during that time where you have unusual, some people have a tree out there that's unusual amount of droppings. For my family, I got about 3 or 4 in my family. I could fill up one of those. I get the 2 pickups a week. Monday, I've got my trash pickup and my recycling pickup. And then Thursday, I have another trash pickup. I normally don't have any trash on Thursday. That's why I was saying, as long as the bag and it fits in that container, it will fit. I mean, they'll take it, that closed container. That would alleviate, in my opinion, the amount of trash that you would need. As far as alleyways, the amount of alleyways, there's still some alleyways being serviced. We know that, and I know, and I feel bad about the others. That was something that Waste Management was having a hard time getting through. Randy had brought up a good statement about those big trucks running through there after every rain. You're falling to cover everything up, and they're dragging mud into the streets and everything else. With the cans out there as they are as well, on my street, and I've seen them in the other streets too, everybody has different, right now it's whatever you've got out there. I see cans that are in disarray. I see cans being, that have fallen, just basically crap everywhere. Knowing that these cans need to be sealed, it was a safety, as far as I'm concerned, it was a safety issue for the community, and also an ecological one. Are we going to get everything that we wanted? No. what we propose now, or what I would be proposing, is that we were talking about, this is a situation we haven't even got the cans yet. I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to start using these cans and going, oh, these are easier than I thought. Some of those problems that we're talking about now that we aren't dealing with yet will be alleviated. Some others might come up. But after that 6 months dealing with that as a city, and what can we do as a city? If we can't deal with waste management, what can we do as a city to alleviate the problems with the residents or with the type of pickup we have? If it means coming up with some different ways that we can help out our needy customers to be able to, what we need to do to help them out. As a city, I know we can do this. And again, I'm just speaking for myself. I like to open it to other people, and there's other discussions. But let me talk long enough, I'll probably talk some more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just have a couple of questions for city staff. So I heard something about having to go in behind the waste management trucks after rain. How much time is being spent doing that? I mean, how much time, when it comes from a standpoint, you're chasing behind them for every single alley that they go through currently, whenever it rains?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it all depends on every rain event, right? The more rain, saturated days that we get, we'll get several rains a day, the trash has to get picked up. The trash trucks have to go down the alleys. So that creates, basically all it is, these alleys weren't designed for that weight. All it is dirt and base material on that alley. So when base material gets wet, it gets saturated. And when the weight of that truck, it starts pumping that base, which creates your ruts in the alleys. The folks that are here that have called my office, complaints about ruts in the alleys, complaints about mosquitoes and the potholes in the alleys, those are the things that come through my office for the folks that do have alleys. The fences, just the other day, we got a complaint where the waste man truck hit the fence, jumped the curb to get in the alley. There's various complaints that we get throughout the year with trash service. But it is, back to your question, is that we do chase the garbage trucks. That's a fact. I'm not throwing it out there, it is. Every time it rains, like today, we were doing street work. That's what my guys should be doing, is street work. Not chasing waste management trucks down these alleys and fixing the potholes. And that's the service that we're in every time it rains, chasing the garbage trucks, fixing the alleys, because we get those calls. We're here to serve the citizens. We get the calls, we address the issues in the alleys. And all we can do is go back in there and put the base back in there. We got some millings, so we try to do different things to make it compact. Obviously, we have to go through there and compact it. The amount of hours, time, it varies. It depends on the rain amount we get each time. Yes, and the biggest thing you brought up about the mud, in the alleys. When they go from one alley to the other, there's a lot of tracking of the mud between the alleys. That's the other thing we get complaints on. So we're actually having to go down there, pick up the mud, street sweep the areas and stuff like that. So it's nothing new for us. It's something that we've been willing to do. We've done all these years. But it is, one thing that is a fact, if garbage service is not in the alleys, the unpaved alleys, basically there is a cost savings to the city by me not going out there and chasing the waste management truck.
And the vast majority of those alleys are utility easements, am I correct?
Yeah, so the purpose, a lot of these purposes of these alleys is for the reason that the city maintains them, is for the access of the utilities. Several of these alleys do have sewer lines that run through, especially in the older sections of town. You do have a majority of paved alleys, and other gravel alleys, base alleys, do have gas service. Does have what call AT&T service lines, Time Warner, and even overhead power. So the folks that do have alley know that CPS runs through there. So those are other vehicles that do go in there, and that's the reason why we also have to maintain these alleys. So in the event that trash goes away, we do have to go there and still maintain it for the purpose of, one, my sewer truck going through there and routing sewers, and the other CPS utilities. times that they go in there is not as much as twice a week trash service that goes through those alleys. And the weight of those vehicles is quite different from the other utility vehicles that we have through there. So.
And from the city standpoint, if we are no longer going back there with the trucks, with the waste management trucks, there's a concern that the alleys are going to go to disarray, right? There's just going to be weeds and not taken care of. That is not true. The code, I'm asking, that is not true. The code compliance will continue to evaluate those alleys going forward to make sure that they are kept in the state that they are supposed to be kept in.
Right, because you still have periodic other utilities going in there. So it's interesting, we have people who have alleys that do not get alley trash pickup. They still have to go out and maintain their trees to a certain height and keep the grass low. Again, when we talk alley maintenance from a residential prospect or angle, we are talking about trees, shrubs, and grass. That they will have to maintain. Public Works and the city will still be maintaining, the ruts and things of that nature, but on a less frequent basis.
Okay. And Randy, I know we talked about an estimate for the entire city. What's one average alley cost to if we were going to strip it down, put a proper base layer in it, and I would expect that we would have a pretty high standard on this base layer and everything that goes into it, because above all, it's going to have waste management driving through it. If they were doing alley pickup, waste management's going to go through it, and they'll also be going through it twice going forward with the outside load, assuming they fit down the alley. So just generally, what would one alley cost?
Well, it's a great question. One of our residents came to me to get some facts about that very answer, right? So, question. So, explaining that about an alley is basically you have to build an alley just like you build this street out here. Mm-hmm. No different. The weight of that trash truck drives on that street, you don't see any running out there at all. These roads are designed to handle the weight of any truck. Fire truck that weighs more than a garbage truck, fully loaded with water. So we design these roads to handle whatever weight. If you drive down any road and you see rutting in the wheel wells of a road, you know that road wasn't designed to handle that weight going down the road. So these alleys would have to be built to the same standards as our streets. Right now, I'm working on our Red Horse Park, doing some cost estimate. One is to rehab one alley that's paved, and then put the other side of the alley, making it part of our parking, since we are making several improvements with our park grants to Red Horse Park. So right there on each side is estimated $200,000. That's just for the straightaways for those alleys, not including the parking lots that we need to rehab or the additional parking lots. So that entire project, and that's even on the disc golf side, I think it was like $68,000 just for that little parking lot on that side. But the entire thing in that particular area is going to be $600,000 just to rehab what we have, improve an alley that's not improved right now, to allow traffic going through there for parking and stuff like that.
What's the linear feet on that?
I don't have it. But the block of Boulder and Meadowway, basically it's that link through there, if everybody's familiar with that.
Okay, and considering that cost, and I think I heard, and I want to clarify for myself and the group, we have roughly 20% of the city has alley pickup. Or correct me, remind me of the numbers, and I just want to make sure I got all my numbers right.
26% of the city has alleys.
Okay.
2% of those don't get alley trash pickup anyway, because of the alleys and all the utility easements that are in them, they're too narrow. 4% of them have paved alleys already and have rear garages. So 20% of the residents have an alley where they get trash pickup that we are proposing that they will not get it there anymore.
Okay. So I'm just going to throw a harebrained idea out, to sort of from a cost standpoint of trying to, let's say we have an alley that meets the width requirements for a truck to actually go down it, to have enough space for a can to be on both sides of the alley, and for it still to be able to move down properly. I don't know how many alleys qualify at that. But let's say we've got one, and there's a group of citizens that want alley pickup. Could we do something like a public improvement district, where that cost is built into the citizens that use that alleyway?
So I think what you're talking about is a public improvement district.
Public improvement district, thank you.
More commonly called a PID. So that is an option. However, in order for that to happen, you are correct, we would have to know that the alley is wide enough in order for that still to be able to be maintained even if it or used if it was paved. The other thing is 100% of those owners would have to agree to have that additional tax added on to their property. It doesn't mean it would happen right away either. In order for the PID, you have to generate the money over time and then start the improvement and then keep taxing them for whatever period of time it is until that is paid off.
And then as far as the maintenance of that road going forward, once it's built, would that mean stay in the PID, or would that then transfer to the city?
I don't think it would stay in the PID. I think a PID is only for a limited period of time. I believe it's 20 years is the longest you can carry out a PID. So after that time, it would have to go off the PID and it would go back to the general fund.
And maintaining a road such as that would be a lot easier than putting, a lot less costly than putting one in, correct?
Yes, if these alleys like we're explaining, yes, once they're paved, they're a whole lot, it'd be no different than our streets, maintaining our streets as we do right now.
Okay. I'm gonna stop there, thank you. I've got more, but I'm gonna let everybody else ask.
Okay.
I'm ready. Okay. We specifically asked this question, and no one will lose their job. They, in fact, I think we had a day when they couldn't come because they didn't have enough employees, I'm not sure.
That is correct.
So they're having the same problem everybody else is. No one will lose a job. And they said they're all learning how to drive also, how to drive the trucks. They also said in another Texas town, a worker was putting the trash in the back of the truck, and a girl came around looking at her phone, and she smacked into the back of the truck and killed the worker. So they really want that safety of getting the workers off the road and out from behind the trash can. If you have somebody who cannot handle the can, they need to contact the city, Kim, right? And they will help you. If for some reason they don't, contact us. So, okay. And
can I put a caveat on that? So I just want to make sure everybody understands what you're talking about, and that is the door to curb service. So since the several issues of the gateway have gone out regarding the trash service and the postcards, we have had residents contact us to be put on the door to curb service. And we are finding predominantly it is people who are over the age of 90, that's predominantly what we've had, single females, and they either are on a walker or a wheelchair. That's what we're finding, and I believe that's who that service should be for. A lot of them do live alone, or they have a caretaker that only comes in once a month. So we are allowed 20 of those. I think we've added eight, and then prior to that we had some people who had alley service and couldn't get back to their alley, and now they're going to be out front. So we'll go back to some of them to see if they can now manage their trash can if it's in the front, and if they can, then we will take them off the list so that we have room for more people who are in the wheelchairs and the walkers that need to get the trash cans out.
I have a neighbor who just had knee surgery, and so for quite a while she can't handle that can. I've got it for her, but as an example, can someone get like temporary service?
We can do a temporary service. We have several people that are on temporary service while they're recuperating.
Okay.
And we just judge it by when their doctor releases them.
Okay, okay. And I think there's some confusion about brush days, about bags. Can you explain that like you did in the room?
So, yes, Mr. Najarian mentioned that their brush was offered at twice a year, and the city council renegotiated the contract for 4 times a year. And I'll get real specific so people understand how the process works. So we're gonna have 2 brush pickups in the spring and 2 in the fall, and they'll be fairly close together because usually most things will fall at the same time. So on the upcoming one, the brush pickup starts on March 28th, but you can start putting your items out. 6 cubic yards of brush and however many bags of leaves that you have, put it out at the curb. Then from the 28th through April 1st, Waste Management will come through the city during that time period and pick up whatever they see. And so some people may actually put things out twice during that time. Some people may put it out once, and some people may not do it at all. And so that's how the brush service is going to work. If you happen to have a little tree trimming that you do in the off season, and you can chop it up and put it in your can, and if you have a spare bag of leaves or whatever it is, you can also put that in your waste management trash can. So the brush pickup is for, even though it's only 4 times a year, it's for longer periods, and they are back to back to accommodate the fall and the spring leaves and tree trimming.
And how do people find out the date of the brush days?
So it's in the last issue of the Gateway that went out. I believe it's on the waste management card that they received, and there is a page on the city's website that says waste service, and it has all the dates on there, and we post them 1 year at a time. And additionally, I believe Regina and Kristen also post all of those dates on Facebook and on Nextdoor or Nextdoor Neighbor, whatever the other offshoot site is called.
It is on this card.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Neville?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Byrd. I did a lot of thinking about this from the time it came to vote. I even asked what it would cost to pave the alleys to make it easier. And when the cost came out to be over $10 million, we, and that's all of us, would have to put out a new bond. And I don't know if 80 or 90% of the city who don't have alleys would want to vote for those who do have. I don't know. We don't have alleys in our subdivision because they decided to put the alleys in our backyard. And so I have a 20-foot of fence that has to be able to be torn down if they have to get in and do anything. I also have a electrical circuit breaker that's 40 feet from my house with a 10-foot easement. So if I wanted to use a new ordinance to do 70% of my energy coverage, I couldn't do that. So when we came to this, negotiating this contract, I personally feel that we did the best we could do to keep the services that we had. Twice a week pickup for our trash, and once a week pickup for our recycle. And I, for one, will try not to overburden that 96 gallon, okay? Because I have one, I've been using it. And I know at the bottom it's smaller than it is at the top. And if you know anything about physics, that means the more you put into it, the higher it gets up, the center of gravity goes up. And if you push it too over, you're going to go with it. And I'm in that age, well, I don't have to tell you my age, I'm like a woman. And I can say that because I have 4 daughters and a son and a wife. And I have 6 great-grandchildren, a boy, and 6 great-grandchildren, and a girl. So I am outnumbered like all my life. I had to decide what I thought was best for the majority of the city. To maintain what we had in lieu of what we would have had, perhaps. 1 pickup a week, trash pickup, brush pickup twice a year. Even right now, if you cut your limbs or if your trees that you're trimming or your bushes, as long as you can put it in that waste management trash pickup, it can go in there. You don't have to put it out and tie it up and wait for somebody else to come along. But if you can put in there, but of course your garbage has to be put back. Because I certainly don't want to have to scrub out a 96-gallon can every week. And I just have to be careful of not overburning it. I probably will put it out once a week now. Or I could wait and maybe Monday, you know. But that's my decision. That's what I based it on. I tried to do what I thought was best for the majority of the citizens. Now, we don't have districts. We represent every one of you, each of us. We don't have favorites. Believe me, we don't have it. If I did, I'd be living somewhere else rather than where I am. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shelby, you want to continue before I go?
Sure. Just a couple of questions, and to kind of give some light on this. We had Waste Management come in. They presented us a new contract. We understood that side loading was going to be how it was going to be. We specifically asked them, "Can you do rear trash pickup?" And they said no. In fact, they said no. And if you want to find somebody else that will do it, that's fine. But we'll part ways because we're moving away from that. That's not where the technology is. That is not where garbage service is going to be anymore going forward. Now, some trash services I'm sure are still doing it, but I think eventually they will transition as everybody else does. But kind of with that idea, they came in and gave us the opportunity to negotiate 4 trash pickups a year. And I know we've mentioned it multiple times, but four brush pickups, which can include putting bags out without tags that have no cost.
Right.
Our spring and fall cleanup, which allows anybody to take just about anything they have, and I'm personally going to be using it pretty soon because I'm going to be getting rid of some stuff in the spring, to the city yard, and that gets taken care of.
Yes.
And originally we came in with twice a year brush pickup when we negotiated with them at that time to improve that. We expressed our desire to maintain our twice a week trash service and our once a week recycling, which I think when I first got here it was every other week and we had a little tub.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I understand Live Oak just closed their contract with Waste Management.
Yes, sir.
They waited. Do they have a similar contract to us?
So they have twice a week trash pickup, every other week recycling. They have monthly brush pickup. They have no spring and fall pickup, so they don't have the 30 cubic yard bins down at the Public Works Center for people to provide things. And their rate is higher than ours. They pay $3.20 a month more than we do in Universal City.
And they have the 96 gallon.
Yes, sir, they have 96 gallon.
I have a friend who sits on city council in Kirby, and I understand they have Republic from talking to her. With Republic, she told me that they do trash pickup once a week, recycling once a month, and no brush pickup. And they also have the side loading, 96 gallon garbage cans. So just a piece of information out there through another contact that I have. I didn't ask this, but I do want this out in the open. Let's say we break our contract with Waste Management. How much is that going to cost the city? Roughly. We have to buy the contract out, I'm assuming.
If you had to buy it out, so I think Mr. Volle was the one that asked the question recently, me, of what does the waste management contract mean for them? So
It's about, the 5-year contract is $7.5 million on the residential side, and it's that plus a little more on the commercial side. So the two of them together would be about $15 million.
And then we have to go and convince another trash service to sign a contract with us after we broke one. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we would spend that money and still start, and have to go through the negotiation process and pay for a new service at the same time.
Yes.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Just riding on the back of that, number one, with when Live Oak redid their contract with Waste Management, I don't believe they were offered the differences between the different, because we can talk about different size trash cans as well, correct? Because of the text, I'm going to say it wrong. Texas, Oklahoma. Why can I not say that? Because it's weird. Because the text only allows 496. Now, there's, it's been out there, getting out in social media, that people have, people have had a choice, and that, I don't understand that to be true from the facts that that we've gone over. Also, get my thoughts together. The 30,000 cubic. That's at 30 cubic. That's the 30,000. The dumpsters that Waste Management was going to be providing for us.
So the 30-yard roll-offs?
The 30-yard. Thank you.
30-yard roll-offs.
30-yard roll-offs.
Residents can dump anything they want.
Exactly.
Except for brush.
When we were going through that, that was like, I remember we were talking about being above and beyond it. It's like, this is really going to help us out in this situation, since we're going to be trimming down the, once a month and things like that, of our city being able to utilize those. And I don't think they give us that at the same cost.
Right, they wanted to provide less roll-offs than what they did before, and they were also, I believe, a smaller size, but Mr. I want as many as I can get over here. By the way, yes, send him all the money that you can, because I spend it, was able to convince them that based on previous fall and brush cleanups, that we spend weeks afterward using other roll-offs that they bring us that should be just for the public works use to clean all that. They saw that, yes, we do have a very successful fall and brush, fall and spring cleanup, and that they should provide us what we need so that we can remove the rubbish from the city.
And I'm just going to say too, you've with anything in the city, when you're dealing with different situations, you're trying to make as many people happy as you can, and some people are going to like it, some people aren't. You're hoping that you can please most of the residents as much as you can, looking at the amount that we're spending on the contracts, what we're putting out, and that is the best for the city. And even if we all wanted it and thought this was the perfect thing, when it comes out, there's going to be some hiccups. There are going to be some hiccups. We're used to having it done one way. I believe those will go away as problems arise and some other problems diminish. I think as a city, we should be able to pull together again. I'm very confident with this city's and this council's ability to react to a situation. If, in other words, since we're put in a position where we can't deal with waste management on changing something right now, we as a city should be able to come up with when some problems arise, to be able to help our citizens, to be able to
to alleviate that, excuse me. I feel very confident about that. I want to caution people to use this new system and let's get used to it and find out what's not working for us and see if we can't make it work better in the end. And come down 5 years later and we have to renegotiate. I'm not going to get ahead of that. We need to deal with what we have right now. So I'm done. Thank you. Just a minute.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, let me try to summarize this up for us as much as I can. We asked almost the same exact questions of Waste Management when we first started renegotiating this contract. And we grilled their representative and the guy that handles all the crews that come into our streets every single day. And we grilled them on the very similar types of questions that we've discussed this evening. And these are the issues that we were definitely concerned with. There's no question about it. The industry-wide standard is to go to the ASL, the automatic side loaders. And the real debate in some of the alley situations is if you're going to have, on both sides of the alley, you're going to have to go one direction, turn around, come back the other way. And some of the alleys just are not going to be able to handle that in terms of their width. But we looked at every possible angle to make sure that the majority of you all got a good deal. And we really believe that we negotiated a really good contract with Waste Management. We talked to many of our sister cities who also have Waste Management. We are blessed, honestly blessed, and I think the situation that we have and the services that we're being provided are really, truly for the best interest of you all. And like Mr. Byrd said, we can't please everybody all the time. It's an impossibility. We just have to hope that we are able to provide the kinds of services that you all deserve. And I know individually we can say, gosh, I can do this and I can do that. Of course we can. But when we're looking at it from the standpoint of the service that the city's going to provide to you all, you've got to understand that it has to be something that's in the best interest of everybody. And we've got almost 21,000 people in Universal City, close to being built out, but we've got a little ways to go. And so we want to make sure that everybody gets their fair share of this, the fair shaking. So it's that simple. We all were vehement, as I think Paul mentioned, that the twice a year brush pickup was not going to work for us, period. We were used to once a month, and so we even tried to see if we could possibly negotiate 6 times a year. We ended up with 4, at least we got a compromise there. And I think the others have made it pretty clearly that you can still put that brush into those 96-gallon containers. And when you do have that pickup time, and in this case it's going to be March the 28th and April the 25th, at that time, when it's your pickup time, you can put all the bagged leaves that you want out there and they will pick them up. Okay, as well as the brush service that you might want to put out there. I wish there was a way we could satisfy everybody, but sometimes the reality of the situation is you can't do it. You just cannot please everyone all the time. I welcome your comments. We had citizens that were directly involved when we talked about this way back when. We did publicize it, and so it's not like we negotiated this without any citizen input, because every single one of these members up here talked to people about it while that contract was being renegotiated. And I think everyone will tell you that they used some of that input they got from you to say this is how some of my constituents feel. And again, like Mr. Neville said, we represent the entire city. Each one of them doesn't represent a specific district of Universal City, but the entire city. And I think it's important for us to grasp that fact that we try to represent all of you the best that we possibly can. And it's not an easy job being up here. It's not an easy job at all. We have to help make those decisions for you, and we hope that we make the best decisions we can for you at all times. And we're talking about all the issues, not just this particular situation here. We're at a point right now where if we were to try to change what we have in good faith negotiated with Waste Management, it would be a financial, really huge burden for us to have to live with. And I don't want to put you guys in that situation. I don't want to put us or you all in that kind of a situation. So, anybody else, something else they would like to add? I want to thank all of you, honestly. What we hear from you is really good. We need more participation all the time. You'll be surprised at what we cover at these council meetings, that we can learn so much from you if we get your input. To wait to be reactionary is not the right time. The right time is to do it when it's all happening. And that sounds like a real simple solution, but it's not. It's not a simple solution, okay? We really sincerely care about our community, or we wouldn't be up here. We wouldn't spend the time that we do if we didn't believe that we were doing the best we can for all of you. And I hope you really understand how sincere we really are. I can't speak for each one individually, but yes, I can, because I know how they feel. I know how they feel. Okay? Again, thank you very much this evening. It was a labor of love for all of us, and how we feel and how we think is the best interest for our community, and that's just the way it's going to be. So we'll close this discussion right now, and that closes our business session. And we do have a couple of final items, and that is the discussion by the city manager, and then each council member has an opportunity to make a comment as well. So Kim, again.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. May 7th, we have our pancake breakfast coming at the fire station right next door. Also, the long-awaited paving of East Aviation is going to happen next week. That is a Tuesday through Friday project. Best if you try to avoid that area. You will be able to get through, but there'll be a lot of rerouting. And that's all I have tonight, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a side note, just in general, I've heard a lot of people say, I don't know what's going on in my city. I want to use my experience of how I got involved in the city. I grew up here. I moved out into San Antonio for a little under a decade. I bought the house that I grew up in and moved back in. When I moved back in the city, I wanted to know what's going on. And I found out the agenda gets posted the Friday before every meeting. And I would go on to the website and I would get the agenda, or I could come up here. We used to actually have to post it in paper. To go back that far, I remember when I got on council, we actually got 3-ring binders of all the paper. But I pulled that document up and looked at it every week. And then eventually, something came up I wanted to be involved in, and I showed up and I talked about it. And then I just started showing up. And I started every Tuesday. I was here every single Tuesday that I could be here. And eventually, I'm interested in getting involved with the city. And then I got on a board. And I sat on a board for 8 months. And after about 8 months, the council election came up and I ran for city council. I spent a lot of time, a year before I even got on a board, coming to these meetings, finding out what's going on, listening to what the council has to talk about, understanding the difficulties that go into evaluating all of the changes that have to be done, all of the new things that have to be done, the money that has to be spent. And that the people that sit up here, and I'm now one of them, have to think about, we get those packets at the same time and we start looking at them and start putting our questions together. And the people who get ahead and get that agenda will email us. And I'll get emails all the time. I don't respond to all of them, especially if they go to everybody, because I have to be careful about that. But if I get a bunch of emails with a bunch of questions, I bring the questions in. There's no sense in me trying to answer them. I don't know. I won't know until we come up here and start talking about it. And so that's the time when I bring the questions up. Be passionate about your city. This city is passionate about its citizens. Sometimes we ruffle feathers. I've seen huge groups, twice this size, come in over of an issue. And we were here till 12:30 one night. We think about all the angles. All we ask is, if you want to be involved in the city, find the agenda, at least find the agenda every 2 weeks, for the most part. The Friday before the first Thursday, the Friday before the first Tuesday, and the Friday before the third Tuesday. It's always there. And contact us. We'll bring up your questions. These are great questions we get. I appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for all your input. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Paul? Real quickly, great news on the aviation. It's going to have to be avoided as long as I can still get them together. I'll be fine. Also, very eloquently said, getting involved. I'm similar. I haven't been here as long as he has. Moved here in 2004. Once I started getting involved by 2013, once I got time and wanted to get more involved in the city, got with Citizens Police Academy and started learning, meeting my neighbors and spending 45 minutes in HEB to buy milk and just talking and trying to keep crime down in the city and looking at it that way. And as I got more involved and got into planning and zoning commission, or working way through commissions, and then where I am here today specifically, and it's for the love of the city and where we live. And again, up here, I'm not sure if everybody really thinks about the part that we do live here too. I'm going to have those 96-gallon trash cans too. I'm going to have to, if they're really heavy and I can fit in the garage, I'm going to have to do some adjusting myself, But it's for the love of the city, and you all getting involved because of the love of the city. The reason it's 10 o'clock at night and you're all here. It's because of the love of your city, and I don't want you to think that I or we don't appreciate that at all, something that has come out, and it's funny. I'm going to end it with this. It's funny. I think it's funny. I made a couple Mayberry comments, and that seemed to come back and smack the heck out of me. And I just want you to know, it was a few years ago when this was brought up, when we talked about Mayberry. We were talking about the love of our city and our small city, and people moving into it saying what they love about this city is the fact that the small living and the neighbors know their neighbors, and we pulled together and the volunteering. And it was just kind of said, and I can't even remember where we brought it up, but somebody brought it up, said, yeah, Universal City, our little Mayberry. It wasn't meant for the weird stuff or saying it's a sitcom. It was the Aunt B and them knowing their neighbors, all being a tight-knit community and working together to solve problems. So if anybody was wondering if I'm trying to turn these conversations into sitcoms or bring it up that it's a derogatory, I'll stop saying it if it offends people. But the original reason was it was a term of just passion for the city, and just wanted to get that straight out. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chris. I want to reiterate what everybody else has said. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for always been concerned for your city and for your neighbors and for yourself. I want to thank the city manager for giving us an understanding of the substation, and I think we came to a great understanding that if we put the GPS on all of our first responder vehicles, we can change those red lights into green. That will alleviate a lot of problems that I thought we had with first responders responding to other parts of the city rather than the middle. I first came to University City of Randolph in '62. I was here until '66. Then in '68, I came back in '68. I was here when I retired. I've been at my present address for 41 years. So I really know my neighbors. I know my district. Well, I mean, where I live. But by the way, the church on my corner is expanding. It's going to be huge. So if you're any, Lutheran, they got a great church building going there. Something was brought up about the funds of the Universal City Economic Development Corporation about why can't we use it on Meals on Wheels, and why can't we use it on infrastructure? Of course, the thing is, legally we can't. We cannot do those things. We are an economic development corporation, and that's where our money comes from. Sales tax, everybody who buys in the Universal City pays sales tax. Of that sales tax, we get 1/4 cent. Now, you may not think that's a lot, but because of the big buildings we have in the city, HEB, Walmart, all the others, we actually took in for the first quarter this year a little over $600,000. Remember, that's 1/4 cent that adds up to that. And as much as we'd like to do things for people that are down and out, that's not our job. But if we get a person to come in, someone talked about the Superdoors building, which lay vacant for a year. It didn't lay vacant because they moved out. It lay vacant because it was bought. And the new owner decided that they did not want to be here. They wanted to consolidate where they were making these huge doors. And so that's why it's late. And we thought it was a good investment to help someone come in, take care of a business, and also have part of that building so that other people come in and put other businesses in there. The sales tax is a furniture, office furniture going in there. And someone said, well, if it goes out, they sell it to somebody out of the city, who gets the sales tax? So the sales tax comes here because it's point of sale. That's why everybody that comes into Universal City and buys in Universal City, the sales tax comes here. And we are really thankful for that, because we can do a lot for the city from the Economic Development Corporation. Well, I know it's getting late, and I appreciate you again being here. I think I'll live with that. Thank you.
Okay, and yes, we appreciate you being here. I can't tell you how many meetings we've had where there is nobody out there. And we just have to hope that we're doing a good job. Bill was talking about, we have 3 police cars. Did that include the one that was wrecked?
I don't know.
I don't know if y'all know, but police officer was doing his job, and a drunk driver came rushing up and ran into the back. The officer was not in the car. He saw it going on, and he was safe. He got out of the way. But the car is totaled. So, might be 4 now. William covered, check the agendas. Crosswalk up here, the new one. I drove, was coming down, and there's a little boy waiting to cross. He had a bicycle. Lights were flashing. I stopped. Nobody else did. So the next group of people figured it out, and they stopped. And this boy didn't know whether he should go or not. So I don't know how that's going to work. So, and I can't speak to giving Randy a raise. But Randy loves cookies. Gotcha.
I don't think they said give him a raise. I think they said give his department more money. That's what I heard.
Oh, is that what you
That's
heard?
what I
Oh, okay. Randy loves cookies, and he actually shares them with his guys. Okay, that's all.
Just a couple of quick items. I could bring up some additional points this evening on some correspondence that I received. There's just one I would like to share with you, and that the folks at Randolph sent a note to Kim and myself related to a letter of appreciation for some of our employees at the library for helping out with their Strategic Leaders Outside event back on March the 7th. And they want to specifically thank Jennifer Whitaker, who worked with our deputy in coordinating the use of the activities room. So these are the nice to get letters. And people they really appreciate the kinds of services that we can provide to folks. And well, if you don't know this, if you live on Randolph Air Force Base, you have a 78148 mailing address. If you live on base, we can't claim them as citizens because it's federal property. And the buildings where the people work on Randolph is 78152. But those that actually live on the facility have our Universal City mailing address. So I don't know if it's a piece of trivia for you this evening. And I'll just close with one simple statement. Let's try to give this waste management contract a chance. Let's try to accentuate the positive. Is there something that's going to work? Pardon?
We don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice. But we'll give it a chance because, we like.
That's what I'm saying. Let's give it a chance. I think it behooves all of us to give it a chance. Yes, it may not be the perfect contract of all time. We definitely believe that we did the best in interest of you citizens, and I can't state it any other way. We did our darndest, and we did our due diligence as much as we possibly could have. And I see that one of the signs that I think has already been out there for the bill has been promoting for the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. Support that if you can. I think 2 of you have already made that commitment, so thank you very much. Oh, so you have 4 made the commitment? Great.
Oh, 5, 6.
Oh, 5, 6, 7. Do I hear 10?
7.
Listen, thanks very much. It's 20 after 10. I really, really appreciate you sticking around. And I think I echo what everybody says. Come see us more often. You'd be surprised how much we really care about you. And thank you very much for coming. This meeting is now closed.